today, but hey, you're there, so I guess that makes us good. Welcome to the program. Today is July 15. It's a Saturday morning, and I hope you've had your fair share of cocoa, or is it cocoa? Whichever part of the nation or world you are checking us out from. Just a few issues before we plunge into the show. You're not unaware. In case you are, let me inform you, the federal government of Nigeria has concluded plans to make a digital transfer of 8,000 naira to more than 12 million low-income earners in Nigeria to help cushion the effect of the subsidy removal, which of course has seen the prices of commodities triple in recent weeks. Of course, we know that this predates this government. It's been something that's been on for a while. In fact, I think in 2019 there was a lot of trader money. There are two others. I don't remember them right now. But you know, this just set my mind asking questions. Clearly, or let's assume or hope that this 12 million individuals will be drawn from the National Social Register. Now, the National Social Register, as at 2020, had about 24.3 million poor and vulnerable Nigerians in it. By 2021, I think about March or so, it had grown to 30 million 30 million Nigerians, poor and vulnerable Nigerians, about 6.3 million households in 699 local government areas, according to the social register. But in 2022, as last year, it's grown to 46 million poor and vulnerable Nigerians. And so I did a bit of a math. So 46 million poor and vulnerable Nigerians and only 12 million are going to benefit. That's one thing. It's a good thing, at least some people. Now, there are those who have been asking what's 8,000 naira going to do for poor and vulnerable Nigerians. Please, Nigerians are in grids, okay? And they are in different parts of the country. I mean, look at the multidimensional poverty report. In Sokoto alone, where about more than 90% of the people living in Sokoto are said to be poor and vulnerable. Multidimensionally poor and vulnerable in Sokoto State alone. It's not the same in Lagos, it's not the same in Port Harcourt, it's not the same in every state of Nigeria. So maybe that is something to be considered. But you know, it just set my mind thinking, so we have poor and vulnerable Nigerians in every state of the country. And if we do a bit of math, include the FCT, by the way, it comes to 12 million poor and vulnerable Nigerians come to 324,324 Nigerians per state, including the FCT. 324,324 poor and vulnerable Nigerians per state plus FCT. That's if you divide 12 million by 37, that's what you will get. So is that the way it's going to go? I don't know. I guess we'll wait to see. So essentially just asking the question, how is it going to be done in a way that people will see it as being fair and equitable across board, so it doesn't look like any part or anyone is being favored unjustly or overly. Please, let's remove the politics from it. Let's just keep it strictly social. It's nothing political. It's not a state thing. And as I often say to people, the naira note in your hand has no feelings. The prices of things in the market have no feelings either. So I hope that will be considered. But you know, also talking about the modalities, we say it's going to be digital transfer. So do they all have bank accounts? How do we determine the poor and vulnerable? 12 million poor and vulnerable Nigerians out of the 46 million in the social register as of today. And that's for those who have been registered. Don't forget that the report, the multidimensional poverty report, according to Nigeria's NBS, says we have 133 million people who are poor and vulnerable. So not all of them have been captured in this social register. So how do we determine the people that will benefit from this 12 million, from this transfer? Is it 12 million? Is it 46 million in the social register, or some random numbers or people out of the 133 million poor and vulnerable Nigerians according to the multidimensional poverty report? I guess those are questions for the federal government to answer. Now, hey, even the ministers have not been appointed yet. Is this going to happen before or after? I guess we'll wait to see how all of that goes. And I understand that's it's going to be from the $800 million World Bank loan, which has been approved before this government came into power. But then there's also the request for 500 billion naira from the House of Representatives, which has also been approved. So is it the same, or are they different? What we understand is they're different. Perhaps we need some clarity on that. So, because when I hear monies like that, I'm just asking myself again, okay, we owe so much already. Is this an addition or what? Anyway, that's that. Now, sit at home, the sit at home program or whatever in the Southeast. I am very, very glad. And I believe many Nigerians are as well, especially in the Southeast. Now, the police has finally stepped in, and understanding we have right now is about 26 enforcers of the sit-at-home have been arrested and are being interrogated. And we also understand that another 53 others have been apprehended for sundry crimes in Imo State alone. Now, is this going to go all around the Southeast, or is just Imo State? From what we understand, the governor of, I think, Imo State as well, says about 10 billion naira is lost to economic activity every Monday. If that happened in one state, in other words, every Monday that there is a sit-at-home in this particular state, I think it's Imo State, 10 billion naira is lost. 10 billion naira. Of course, we know how industrious our people in the Southeast are. And according to, okay, that's in Enugu State. And according to the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, the stay-at-home order on Mondays has resulted in a staggering loss of 4 trillion naira in the past 2 years. I have questions. First of all, what are Nigerians to expect from this new clampdown that the federal government is enforcing, the security agencies are enforcing, especially the police in the Southeast? Is this enough for the people of the Southeast to say, okay, now we cannot go to work in the next 2 days because the sit-at-home thing is being dealt with across board? And then, is this enough to persuade them? Are we going to get people answer questions about what has happened? Who are the enablers of this sit-at-home? The IPOB, the proscribed IPOB, according to the federal government, of course, we all know that IPOB is no longer an entity as far as the federal government of Nigeria is concerned. So who are the enablers of this sit-at-home? We hear one name, Simon Ekpa, who is in faraway Finland, somewhere in Europe, and some people are involved. So who are the enablers? Are we going to get those answers? So these people that have been arrested, are we going to get names from them to ensure that they are not only dealt with, but that it is a permanent deterrence? How many people have been rendered poorer, much poorer than they were before this whole thing started 2 years ago? The kind of development that has been stagnated in the Southeast as a result of this, who knows? And I hear that just a week, not too long ago, we heard that there was a sit-at-home for 1 week that was to be enforced, and another 2 weeks was declared. Glad the police has stepped in, stuff is being done. Is this going to be the end of it? I'm hoping that it will be. But let it not just go like, okay, it's ended. Who are the enablers? We need to get answers to those. Otherwise, hey, it's just one. And then electricity tariff increase. Well, we understand from information available to us as Channel Television, 11 successor electricity companies have applied for a review of their respective electricity tariffs. We also understand that the federal government made this known, saying that the NERC says it's something that is legal. Okay, but I have questions. A number of things that come to my mind is, first of all, the NERC says more than 25% of the total energy wheeled by the TCN, as a transmission company of Nigeria, to discos who are asking for extra tariff now is lost to theft and technical inefficiency. Whose technical inefficiency? Definitely not that of the consumer. So if 25% of revenue is being lost already, who is responsible for that? I hope something is being done to answer questions along that line. Secondly, we know that at some point the discos themselves have had significant challenge collecting tariff over time. So have those issues been dealt with? What's the assurance we have that maybe just 20 or 30% of consumers of electricity all over the nation are not paying for the 100%? That's not being dealt with. So I hope NERC also factors in, and when they say that the macroeconomic challenges are responsible for the increase, I hope they have also factored in the macroeconomic challenges that Nigerians themselves, the consumers, are going through. Because if people resort to alternative power, such as solar, we understand that CNG or whichever one of those gas is also good for electricity. How profitable then will business be for the discos or for those in the power sector? These and a number of other issues I hope are being considered. But I'm not the only one to take on issues this morning. Our menu also has a lineup of stuff to discuss. And on the menu, the first we'll be looking at is a state of emergency on food security that was recently declared by the federal government. And so that will be our first topic this morning. And then the president also said he would champion taking Nigeria back from saboteurs and vested interests. Well, a lot more on that one, particularly in the line of what the Constitution demands from you as a Nigerian. Today, we'll also look on lifestyle. We'll look at a lifestyle of fitness. How do you live a lifestyle of fitness without necessarily worrying or bugging yourself down about one activity or the other? Our artist of the week is also lined up for you. Whether it's a he or a she, you'll find out in due course. In the meantime, do me a favor, please. Grab your cup of cocoa, or is it cocoa, whichever one serves you better, and let's get the show on the road. We'll be right back.
What you gonna do? I'm gonna call it over, okay. Life is beautiful, it's okay. Just look already. I am there. No more trouble, no more sorrow. I don't go beg, I don't go borrow. Just look already. Go already. Just look already. Go already. I go already. Life is beautiful, it's okay. Just look already. I am there. Oh, no more trouble, no more sorrow. I don't go beg, I don't go borrow. Just look already. Go already. Just look already. Just look already. I look at your dead and color it and color it. I correct the redemption, I correct the connection. Yes.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, the federal government has declared a national emergency on food security as record inflation has made basic food unaffordable for many. And that has pushed malnutrition rates, of course, to the precipice. Food prices jumped after the removal of a long-held, costly fuel subsidy. Officials say they will use those funds instead for the agricultural sector and to provide fertilizers and grains to farmers and households struggling with high prices. The President's advisor on special duties, communication and strategy, Mr. Dele Alaki, announced the emergency during a news conference on Thursday in Abuja after a meeting with the President. He said the decision came in response to inflation and the inability of Nigerian citizens to afford basic food items. What's this all about? Let's take it on this morning with a panel of guests. Abdulaziz Musa of Oxfam, Nigeria. He's on our panel this morning along with Ehioma Chijoke, both of them joining us this morning. Chijoke Ehioma is from the Female Food Hero, Abdulaziz Musa of Oxfam, Nigeria. Join us along with Ayodele Gbolagade, a professor of agricultural economics and policy. He's also president, Farm and Infrastructure Foundation. He's chairman as well of Voices for Food Security. He's a member of He's a member and committee chair, Nigeria Zero Hunger Forum, as well as Saidat Shonoiki, executive director and founder, Green Skill Center. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning on the program. Let me begin with you, Prof. The president made this declaration, about food security on Thursday, and of course, it's got a lot of people talking already. For you, first of all, how necessary is it? How important is it? How workable is it, Professor Ayola Gbolagade? That's for you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. We woke up to this good news a couple of nights ago, and the first thing we should do is to commend President Tinubu for the courage he has summoned to do this. It is long overdue that the hunger situation in Nigeria has reached a crisis stage. And this is the first president to escalate the status of that crisis to that of an emergency. So it's rightly done, and we appreciate him for that. Even to the extent that he escalated the status of food security to that of national security, and is an item on the table today of the National Security Council. Having said that, it's a welcome development. To declare a state of emergency on food security means what? It means waging a war against hunger, like many successful countries have done in the past. And we believe this is workable. It's important for Nigeria to do the same. And we are having a president that is taking the right foot forward along that line. However, we notice a gap, and we notice some absence of sharp targeting of the instrumentality of this war. The gap we noticed is that, one, reference was not made at all to the newly passed and newly enacted Right to Food Act, which is a law.
Prof, we'll come to all those other gaps in a bit. My apologies. We'll come to all those other gaps. I just wanted to get the opening comments of everyone because, of course, the gap that you mentioned is quite significant. How does that line up with this declaration of the president? Has that law been factored into it as well? A number of other things we'll consider. But let me also ask Madam Saidat Shonoiki as well, who is Executive Director and founder at Green Skill Center. How did you receive that news from the president about declaring an emergency on food security? That's for you, Mrs. Shonoiki.
Well, it's long overdue. And I think part of the thing he has promised us as a renewed hope. And we all know what is already happening in the market about the food inflation. So it's a real welcome development that government is taking this issue as one of the priority. So we are very happy, and I've gone through the statement from Mr. Alake. So it's a welcome development, and there are areas that are very paramount that they have talked about. So you said we are going to come back to the gap. So I will mention all the gaps I've seen as an implementer in projects that I think it should be part of the thing that they have lined up.
Okay, well,
so
clearly,
that's welcome developing.
Ms. Ihioma Chijoke, one may not really be able to fully consider everything, in one go. Well, those gaps will most certainly be significant. But from where you sit as a female food hero, how do you see this playing out? Do you even have confidence that people will trust the fact that, okay, government has decided to do this, and consequently they will follow government to it? There has been a number of times when governments at the federal or state levels have made, announcements such as this, but that's all it was. That's just it, an announcement and nothing else. Are you confident that the federal government will get the requisite or the required cooperation or participation from both the states and the private sector?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. From my side as a farmer, I am not in that the government has been making such comments and they have not been following it for a very long time now. So the confidence, it's at very low. It's still very low, like 20%. We the farmers don't have the confidence, because most of the times when they make such comments and we are excited, waiting for them to act, the state actors will be nowhere. You will see them, it's only the fake farmers, it will just float. You will only hear, it will not get to the rural farmers. And at the rural area, that is where the production of food is being done. But the rural farmers will not have effect. There will be no such effect on the rural farmers. So telling us now that this is going to happen, yes, we are excited, but will it really get to us? Okay. Will it really get to the farmers? Will the farmers have opportunity of being elevated of our suffering, of the poverty rate, of the hike in price in markets? Look at the price of fertilizer this year. I don't know what we are going to produce this year, but we are still hoping that with this, that there will be a relief for farmers.
Well, thank you. Let me ask you, Mr. Abdulaziz Musa, the crucial thing that has to happen, the federal government itself doesn't have land, even though we understand that some 500 hectares of land have been acquired by the federal government to champion this particular cause. It will most certainly be in various parts of the country. So the collaboration with states is no doubt an issue that is crucial. How do you see that collaboration happening? First of all, do you see it happening? And then how do you see it happening? I'm asking that question against the backdrop of the fact that in 2020, or was it 2021, the federal government came up with the economic recovery plan. And they said that the president at the time said that Nigeria could pull 100 million Nigerians out of poverty over 10 years. 4 or 5 years down the line, after the president's declaration, and the president at the time said, look, this can be done with the collaboration or cooperation of the states. 3 or 4 years down the line, much we heard was that Nigerians in poverty are 133 million. So Do you see this collaboration between the federal government today and the state governments today helping to champion this food emergency declaration of the president?
Thank you, Ayo. Good morning. Just thinking about your first comment earlier, asking us if we are taking cocoa or cocoa, as the case may be. I bet you millions of Nigerians have not divided their yesterday from today. They are still in their yesterday, meaning they've not eaten anything. And just to sort of demonstrate the gravity of the issue we are talking about. So just to reiterate, I think the declaration by the president, it's a very welcome development. It means that the federal government at last have realized that this crisis has reached a level where we need to gather all our resources to address it head on. There's a report, that said in the Global Food Security Report that indicated that from last year to this year alone, 65 million individuals have been added to the food insecure category. That is immense, and it's really not right in a world that has surplus, because we do have that surplus. But back to your question, yes, agriculture is primarily practiced in the states, in the villages, in the communities, just like Ihema mentioned. I was looking at some data yesterday, and I saw that the facilities that federal government disburse, to farmers as loans is almost above, 1 trillion naira. But then, if you look at the reality in the market, the prices and the impact doesn't really correspond with the level of investment that we've made. And these are due to several factors. And one of the key things is in terms of the participation of the right people. One of them is also the state governments. So yes, indeed, this can happen, given that it has been declared as a state of emergency, but it has to go beyond that. The federal government, we hope that before they made this announcement, they've had some level of consultations with the states, because we do not want a situation where the federal government is going this direction and the state governments are going that direction. But perhaps maybe because in this declaration, they did say that they are going to they're going to pay for this land. That is a welcome development, but I think the stakeholders that are required to implement this policy or this directive are actually aware, they are carried along, and state actors especially, who usually are the implementers of, supporting government with these policies are also carried along. One key challenge, perhaps, that might limit the state government's participation is the area of revenue. We all know the situation around revenue at the moment, especially with the states. So, and of course, we do not want a situation where, taxes will be raised, indiscriminately to an extent that it will now, be even more damaging to this, to the people that we're trying to support or help. Climate change is a huge, it's a reality that we're living in now. This year there's a forecast that we might even have worse flooding than last year. This says a lot. So aside from the declaration of the state of emergency, quite a lot need to be accompanied with this to make it a success.
Well, quite a number of things are also listed in that in the address by Mr. Dele-Alaki on behalf of the president. So when you talk about prices, is it any relief to you or for you that the federal government is reactivating the National Commodity Board to monitor the pricing? And when you talk about levies, are you talking about the ones that the states are going to be putting on the farmers? What exactly are you talking about there?
So, I mean, we do have so yes, when we talk about revenue generation, sometimes it's easy for us to just increase tax as governments, not minding. And from our assessments, we've seen that the poor actually are the ones that pay more taxes, multiple taxation, and the rich, avoid tax or even evade tax. But in terms of the commodity board, that is actually very good. In the past, we've had the NAF, the National Agricultural Resilience Framework. Part of that policy also incorporates the issues around the strategic grain reserves. And it's at 3 levels: at the community level, at the which is local governments, at the state level, and at the federal level. And what that means, or what part of the requirement of that policy, is that federal government, along with states and local governments, will set aside funds to mop up excesses from farmers, and store them in the strategic grain reserves. Because if you notice, during harvest, farmers are really shortchanged. The big, middlemen would come and with their monies and just buy this, goods from farmers at a very minimum price, and the farmers don't end up making any profit, and they store them until, these goods are not available, and they bring it out to make maximum profit. So government is supposed to, by that policy, they're supposed to actually regulate that volatility of price, and in a way also ensure that the farmer who invests his time and energy gets the reward out of it. So yes, again, these are not new pronouncements, as far as we're concerned, but the implementation is the key. They say the devil is in the details. So we're really looking forward to see how this is going to be implemented. Obviously, we cannot continue to do the same things, and expect different results. So we are really hopeful that, the way from these pronouncements, that things would also take shape. By this declaration, it means it's a war. Taking, for example, from Ukraine, you've seen that everybody has been mobilized, to fight in that war. Okay. So we also, as we've realized that this is a threat to our collective being as a country, it then therefore means that everybody, the citizens, and unfortunately you asked a question earlier in terms of citizens' trust, the trust is really minimal. And you can see from even the recent happenings in the polity, with the JAMB, and, the election, people don't really believe government when they say things. So we really need to demonstrate that goodwill and that commitment to ensure that everybody that needs to contribute to the success of this policy is carried on board.
Yeah. Let me come to you, Prof. You were talking about some gaps the other time. Of course, I'm pretty sure you've listened to Mr. Musa, on his own positions. Part of the thoughts of the federal government is for a strong collaboration between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Water Resources. How, in your opinion, do you see that really playing out? Of course, you may want to talk about those gaps that you talked about now, but is that a gap in itself, or you see it as something that will really help to fast-track the food production process, the function of bringing the agricultural and water resources ministries together? Is for the water resources ministries to provide infrastructure, perhaps, for the irrigation processes, particularly for the 500,000 hectares that the federal government has assigned. So do you see that as a gap, or something that also needs to be factored into other things, which may include the gaps that you talked about the other time?
Thank you. Let us generally contextualize the gap we are talking about, so we can go into the specifics about the nature of each type of gap that we have noticed. Generally, the first gap that we noticed is the absence of a copious reference to the Right to Food Act. Right to Food Act is a new development which fortuitously had prepared the ground for the present administration to declare this war, fight it, and win it. I am very sensitive to this omission because my own organization, in collaboration with others, were instrumental to following this, the trajectory of this act right from 2010, when we entered the National Assembly, through the 6th Assembly, 7th Assembly, 8th Assembly, 9th Assembly to get it passed, and assented to by Mr. President. Now, with all that amount of labor, I was very surprised that the entire emergency declaration should have been situated within the context of that act to start with. That is one general gap. Going to the specifics, in relation to that gap itself is the fact that government emphasized the common instruments of fighting the war. And government is, in order to do that, the provision of fertilizer, the provision of irrigation services, and so on. But again, we have to contextualize that in itself. The three contexts of fighting this war and winning it is to direct the efforts of government to three areas. One is the area of technology. So government did very well in its declaration by referring to fertilizer technology, referring to irrigation technology, mechanization technology, and the like. Second point of call for that war to be fought is to direct efforts at correcting market failure, especially because the background to this emergency is food inflation. Inflation happens in the market, and if you want to use viable instrument to deal with inflation, you have to target the market. What are the sources and causes of food inflation? And what pattern can we learn from in the past in order to project solutions into the future? That is one area. I see government also doing fine in the declaration about that, because they have touched on the instrumentality of the Commodity Exchange Board, if that is what government has in mind. They also talked of the financial market by playing a role to the central bank, although some of us have reservations about that. But the major gap in that sequence of instruments that is missing is governance itself, policy governance, which ends up derailing implementation process. And we all know that policy is usually, we are not short of policy ideas in this country. Even the entire declaration of Mr. President is not unprecedented. The problem starts at implementation. And therefore, government needs to incorporate its focus on implementation process as a problem in governance, policy governance, before you can get that sequence right. That's a good point. Specific...
My apologies. Just a quick one on the issue, the first issue you raised about the Right to Food Act. Is it any comfort that, you know, the Constitution, one of the 16 bills that was signed by the Buhari government, was the fifth alteration, number 34, which sought to alter the Constitution of the Federal Government of Nigeria in 1999 to require the government to direct its policy towards ensuring the right to food and food security in Nigeria and for related matters. On the one hand is the Right to Food Act, but now it's a constitutional matter. Even if you don't want to obey the law, you have no option but to obey the Constitution. You don't see this initiative by the federal government as something lining up with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Yes, that's exactly the point I'm trying to make. The Right to Food Act was a Constitution amendment bill. So it is a Constitution amendment law, which government is responsibility bound to situate all its policies towards food security and ensuring the right of Nigerians to food. So the declaration, the point I'm making there is that the declaration of emergency should have perfectly been situated in that context.
Well, anyway, that's a good point to make, Prof. But you respond to that other question, I raised earlier. But let me, because still talking about the gaps, since you started on the gaps, Madam Shonoiki, you also, mentioned the need to address some gaps in order for this emergency declaration by the federal government to have the required teeth. So what are these gaps that you also have noticed that you think, unless they are addressed, we will just be papering over cracks?
Yeah. The one key important area that I've noticed in the declaration is I'm not seeing a deliberate effort to address the shocks from climate change. Our Ministry of Environment, they should be part of the people that should be considered because there are policy guiding on the issue around climate change. What is causing food prices? There are reports that one of the key areas that is causing food prices is low crop yield from farmers. When I have 1 hectare, I'm getting maybe 12 tons. With the issue of climate change is reducing day by day. The inputs are increasing. And also, there's some other needs I need to be met. When I harvest those produce, I'm going to spread the cost across this. And remember also, there are demand for some certain product from outside. So there are, small available things for we, the Nigerians, to consume. So the issue of climate change is not really being addressed. What are the practices that we are going to see that farmers are going to adopt on their farms to, to address this climate change? In last year, there are a lot of land that's been affected from flood. What is the recovery process? And they talk about fertilizers. Good. But what kind of fertilizers? There should be some demand, some effort towards ecological organic agriculture. We have seen on all parts of the world, people are making deliberate effort around climate issue. In UK, there's what we call ELMS, environmental land management. In EU, there are policies that by 2030, part of our food will come from ecological organic practice because they want to restore their soil. We are facing issue of drought, issue of flood. So what are the real skills we are going to put out there for these farmers? I know about green alternative policy that was launched by the last administration about climate smart agriculture. Are these farmers going to adopt all these things? So it's a major issue we need to address, that we have sufficient food at the right price for consumers. Because as a farmer, I will spread over the cost. So I also saw in the one of the point that they are going to move to forests and clear some of the land. And you all know that trees is one of shock absorber for climate issue. These need to be profiled. We cannot just go into land and start destroying the trees. So there's need for profiling from, because Ministry of Environment, they have all this data with them.
So essentially you're saying, Madam, essentially you're saying that even though the federal government has said there's going to be partnership, there has to be collaboration between the Ministry of Agriculture and Water Resources, you're saying that the Ministry of the Environment also has to be involved in the process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, but something that you said about, the pricing and all of those, just a quick one on that, and I'm pretty sure that Madam Chijoke will also want to speak to it, is the fact that the supply chain is largely responsible for the prices of food. The distance between the farm and the table is quite humongous, such that sometimes the cost of the food, of the entire production of the food itself, is nothing compared to the cost of moving it from the farm to the table. How do you see this emergency addressing that? Of course, one of the items of the federal government in the emergency declaration is the cost of transporting agricultural products, which has been a challenge, will also be addressed. How do you see that happening? That's for you, Ms. Shoneki. That's for Mrs. Shoneki. We'll come back to you, Madam Chijoke. That's for Mrs. Shoneki.
Okay, the issue of, supply chain is a major issue. And I don't know when this will be implemented, that we are going to put the right infrastructure in place. So we don't know when, because we know they said by this year, end of November, people will be under hunger. So when is the infrastructure going to be available for the movement of goods for us to start implementing.
How significant is that? How significant is it? Because you talked about pricing the other time, so and that's why I'm asking, because it is also a significant chunk in the price of food. How significant is it for you? You know that it has to be considered. Otherwise, we may not really be able to solve the problem of food prices.
It has to be really. It has to be on. Yeah, it has to be really considered.
Okay.
But I think there are ways farmers also manage these shocks in terms of logistic management. There's a way they mop up goods together in bulk. So I won't say it's of high significance, but it has to be considered. The major cost is the cost of production, of producing food. Because if people come together and they produce in large quantity, there's what we call shared risk. There's the way farmers shared risk nowadays. They bring in tractor at the same time, they share the risk. They bring in inputs, they share the risk. So I think it's of significant importance, but not really a major one. The other one I would consider is the post-harvest loss.
Okay.
And that is, how do people manage production responsibly?
Okay, so let
production and consumption.
Yes, so let us ask the farmer sitting right next to you there how they have dealt with this issue. Madam Chijoke, this is for you. And I know, I mean, you've expressed your you know, that you are not very, very sure, not very confident because of the trust quotient between between government and the people, whether federal or state. And then you've spoken about a number of other things, whether or not it will drill down to the people. But speak to the issues that farmers themselves are encountering, which the federal government may or may not be aware of. Madam Shonoike has kind of opened that discussion for you. Tell us what your experiences have been as a farmer. What are the things that you have encountered, and how do you see any intervention at all helping to ameliorate some of them?
Okay, as a farmer, post-harvest losses, like he said, has really, really affected us. The cost of moving of our goods from the farm to the market, it's a very big one. That the roads, there are no roads. So moving our goods has been very difficult. No roads from the farm to the markets. That is number one. Before you get a vehicle that will agree, it will be on a high cost. Another thing is there are no post-harvest, there are no post-harvest policies. Okay, there might be policies, but they are not on ground. We don't have silos, no storage facilities, no training on processing. Everything is just on low key. The one the government is doing is just very little. We need them to scale up, because now if I have my farms at harvest, normally we have gluts in the market. So when we have gluts in the market, nobody buys the goods. Sometimes you see farmers wasting the goods and they go. They waste their money, they waste everything, the transport, they waste in bringing the goods. When they look at also wasting transport in taking the goods back, some of them end up pouring the goods in the market and they go. And they have paid for tax, because before you enter market to sell, you will make payments. Those are the things that farmers pass through. What are the government putting in place in this kind of thing now to cushion the effect for farmers?
Okay.
Are they coming to the farm to carry the goods?
Madam, on that, just a quick one. You spoke about transportation costs now. Part of the speech of Mr. Dele Alake from the president is in consideration of the cost of transporting agricultural products, which they say have been a major challenge due to permits, toll gates, and other associated costs. I think these things have also been put into consideration. I have seen one or two videos that have shown people flipping pages of permits and levies that they paid, moving their products from place to place. In terms of costs, what would you say is the percentage cost of transportation on food prices? Okay, maybe after producing, or Madam Shonoike also said that, you know, there's quite a significant cost you put into production of food. But what percentage of transportation and other logistics come on the food prices, just so that people can understand how severe the challenge is and how difficult it's been for food producers such as yourself?
Yes, the cost is really up to 60% of on the food prices. Because when you check your production, you start the cost from going to the market to get the seeds and the inputs. So when you get them, you will pay transport to move them to the farm. So all those things are being levied on the food price. So when you check it, it's up to 60% of the production price.
And that is just for transportation and logistics?
Yes, that is just for transportation.
Interesting. Well, Mr. Musa, let's come to you now on this particular conversation that we're having. It would seem like, the problem of food security is much bigger than a number of people are aware. And this is why we are bringing this whole conversation up now, so that people will know that the whole idea of the federal government declaring an emergency on food security is not just something that needs to be declared, it is something that needs to be worked seriously at. A number of people, of course, everyone on the panel, such as with you, have mentioned gaps. What are the other gaps you have noticed? I cited I wanted you to address the federal government, states collaboration gaps or none the other time. Do you see that as significant? I ask that on two counts. Number one, the states is where the federal government have the lands. The 500,000 hectares will be in the states. The federal government does not have any piece of land on its own. The second thing, so that collaboration has to happen. The second thing is security. Each state has peculiar security challenges, and if these are not addressed significantly in that collaboration, there will be a significant challenge for the federal government, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And insecurity at the moment for us, along with climate change, poses one of the major threats for us. I mean, it's becoming a bit clear now to many people, and especially those of us living in the cities, are now becoming a bit more concerned and engaged in the conversation, because we are now feeling the pinch. In the past, like Chijuke mentioned, farmers are usually the ones that are being shortchanged. But unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, there needs to be a whole lot of collaboration, because you hear many state government governors saying that they do not control the security apparatus, for example. So how do the federal and the states work together to address the security issues? This is not a question that I might be able to answer, because this is something that has been long going. But again, there has been many recommendations in terms of solutions towards this. So certainly that needs to be addressed. If it's not addressed, if there's no life, first of all, there can't be any economic activity. Secondly, there is also the issue of the resource allocation, which is from both at the different tiers of government. And I'm afraid one of the major problems that we've always had is the issue of that governance. Even the little resources, I think for the past 7 years, we've had only about, with the budget in agriculture, at least the federal government budget has been moving between 1% and 2%. This year is a meager 1.11%, literally. So if you look at, again, then in terms of what government is saying and in terms of what government is doing, it's a little bit of, there's a bit of a discrepancy. So if you want to talk about trust, government needs to see that you're actually backing your words with actions. Yes, we can say the budget was not done by this government, but this is something that needs to happen, because you can't say you're prioritizing agriculture and then you're allocating some very meager resources towards that. You have issue of extension services. Part of why farmers also have that high loss is the almost lack of it. If farmers do not know when to apply fertilizer, for example, let me use myself as an example. I have a small farm. I went and applied fertilizer overnight. It rained heavily. Ordinarily, I should be smiling in my bed and enjoying the weather, but I was there thinking about the fertilizer that will be washed away. So if I had information that this is going to rain today or it's going to rain tomorrow, I will know how to utilize that information apply or basically to carry out my farm activities. And you can apply this to, and this is me perhaps that I think I might even have information or have access, a certain level of access. Imagine the farmers who do not even have, say, smartphones or do not listen to the TV and all that. So that is one huge area that needs to be addressed. And all this requires resources. I think extension service literally, collapsed, when the World Bank funding stopped. How do we revive that? That is a huge chunk with climate change now impacting us.
I mean, you keep talking about climate change, and you and Madam Shoneke seem to have compared notes on that, but I'm not sure how. Well, it is definitely something concerning, and let's just hope, as you both have said, that it is something that the federal government has to consider. Otherwise, we do not want a repeat of what happened last year. But speak quickly to this as we begin to wrap up this conversation now, Mr. Musa. Your own concluding thoughts, but please focus on this one. How easy is it for the private sector to not just come in, but play profitably? Particularly in light of the fact that every private sector practitioner will have to speak with the federal government and the state governments, whether or not that is you may want to advise. But how do you see the private sector coming in and playing profitably, particularly with government's policies here and there?
Nigeria is a very profitable market, and hence why you see even with our issues, we're still having some level of investments by the private sector. And what government needs to do is no rocket science, just provide the enabling environment.
Okay.
Enabling environment in terms of some certain incentives. And how do you also, and it's also the issue of the civic society. How do you also mobilize these farmers and make them market ready?
Okay.
Because again, issue of market readiness, if you do not make the farmers market ready, they will end up being exploited by this private sector. So there is a need to have regulations and policies that will really guide the activities of this private actor.
Most certainly a lot to chew on, Mr. Musa. My apologies. We're running out of time. We just want to take concluding thoughts of everybody now. Prof, what will be your final words on this conversation now? Again, I would say this is a conversation starter. We can't really conclude everything now. So what would be your final thoughts on this, Prof?
Thank you. I have a final sentence, not final word only. And that is, one, that government should take cognizance of the new act. That is one word. The second is about the pricing issue that is so much of concern to you. The best way to address escalating price in the food market is through infrastructure provision. We can't overemphasize that. Rural road network, rural water supply schemes, rural electricity, and so on. Things that will make life good for the farmer to be able to produce and transport his produce onto the market. And finally, in the aspect of the federal-state relationship in agriculture, you have made the point. Federal government does not have land on the ground. It is the state. And that is why I have blame for both federal and state. Federal government overreaches the state too much more than the Constitution permits them in the second schedule, even though they are working together in agriculture. States themselves are complacent, ever waiting for what federal government will bring before they intervene policy-wise in agriculture. That situation should be looked into in order to make the statements of this emergency more than mere platitude. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Shoneke, your final thoughts.
Okay, my final thoughts, apart from the issue of climate change I've mentioned, is the use of the right skills for us to implement this project. Yesterday I was at the World Youth Skill, and in the statement, there's a plan for youth to be employed. Are we going to employ skills from outside? Do they have the right skill to deliver? So we need to focus on the skills for the youth to deliver for us. The tractors who are going to be driving it, who are going to be repairing it. And for the farmers, the climate smart agriculture is very, very key. And lastly, issue of our national quality infrastructure. How do our products move out without being rejected. There is a national infrastructure bill that is yet to be implemented. And lastly is our national research development bill. How do we connect research to work for us? These are issues I want federal government to look into. Skills. We don't want to import skills to us, to implement for us. So we need to look into all this and the climate change. Thank you so much.
I can imagine the number of jobs that will be created, you know, with that comment that you just made. Madam Chijoke, your last words.
Okay, my last word is, in the course of this policy that the government is putting in place, they should be very careful. They should try and bring back the extension agents so that we, the farmers, will benefit from them. We tend to benefit more with them. And when you're talking about the private, government, private, public-private partnerships, they should not please bring back the anchor borrowers program. If there is a way they can remove it, it has really dealt with us, the farmers. It's a fraud. They have really cheated on us with that. The people that are putting it in place, the people that are bringing it, when you get yourself involved, they will give you seeds that are not viable, and they want you to pay a money that they did not give you. They will bring people that they think that those people can anchor the program, maybe seed sellers or input suppliers that they know. They will credit your account. You don't have access to the money. They withdraw it back and pay. And putting you in debt. You cannot pay back the loan. You cannot access the loan. You did not use it because what they gave you is nothing. And also that you try to mediate on those people that are bringing farmers together, because most of our farmers in FCT now are suffering from money they did not eat. They did not see the money. They just had a lot of money and they didn't use it. They didn't see it. And some group of people connived and ate the money, and the debt is on farmers. So the government should be very careful and try to work on these things so that farmers will not go back to crying again. Thank you
so much for that contribution that you all have made on this program this morning. I want to believe with all my heart that the federal government itself is listening. Ehioma Chijoke is a female food hero, as well as Saidat Shona Ike, who is Executive Director, Founder, Green Skills Center. We've also had Abdulaziz Musa of Oxfam, Nigeria, as well as Ayola Bolagade, Professor of Agricultural Economics and Policy. He's President, Farm and Infrastructure Foundation. He's Chairman, Voices for Food Security, Member and Committee Chair, Nigeria Zero Hunger Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of our conversation this morning. Truly appreciate the time that you put in to be here. So we take a short break, and when we return, we're still talking about our own dear native land, Nigeria. Just stay with us.
From me, the mind-blowing way to do things is the Glow LTE advanced way. When you stream, it's like you're in the drama itself. When you make calls, you reach where others can't. Cookie! Doing business is like running Wall Street from your street. And when you play,
I did beat the guy. We'll see about that.
It's like traveling the world without moving an inch.
Is that Toby in your room?
You can download in the blink of an eye in 4K.
Go.
And when you go for your dreams, it's like running with the strength of 3 nations behind you.
Glow LTE Advanced, the power of 3 data networks in one. Get a Glow SIM or dial *301#.
Yes, sir. Everything is available.
For quality iron rods, Twins Faja.
For original binding wire, Twins Faja.
For original nails, Twins Faja.
Twins Faja is the distributor of Dangote cement and we deliver for free.
Thank you very much. The satisfaction of our customers is of utmost importance to us.
Twins Faja, quality and integrity. All the time.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we had all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, of course, that topic you see on the front, on the, in the welcoming slide for this next conversation, is a rhetoric you must have heard quite a lot about, during the elections. Take back the country, take back Nigeria. A number of people must have been asking, from whom? Well, the president has said it himself that he's going to do everything he can to take Nigeria back from vested interests. aka Saboteurs. Now, of course, when he was sworn in May this month, many expected little would change. Well, from the first minutes of his inauguration, you would know, of course, that not a few things have since changed. He says the moves, including scrapping the fuel subsidy and a number of other things, are needed to save the country from debt and poverty. But for average Nigerians already facing soaring inflation and a high cost of living crisis, the reforms would add more pressure to their struggles. Don't also forget that there's been limitless talk or countless talk about oil theft, about endemic corruption in various facets of the Nigerian life, in various ministries, departments, and agencies. Rhetorics about, okay, this is what we're going to do, and then nothing gets done. Who are the people involved in all of this? We spoke earlier about what's been happening in the southeast and that the police has moved in and a number of security agencies are ensuring that the so-called sit-at-home, which has cost the region, according to the Deputy Speaker of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, up to 4 trillion naira in the past 4 years, all these things need to stop. Some vested interests, you might say. But then, let's have this conversation this morning. What are the issues around taking back Nigeria from saboteurs or vested interests, as the president has said it? Let's have this conversation this morning with 3 men joining us on the panel. Professor Victor Ariole is Professor of Economics and Chairman of Board, Human Resources Development Center of the University of Lagos. He joins us here in the studio. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not Professor of Economics anyway.
Okay.
If you say Francophone Studies.
Okay.
Everything about Nigeria concerns all of us.
Okay, we'll come to the conversation. Well, 2 other men join us this morning. Sunusi Musa is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us today. As well as Ezekiel Nyaitok, who is founder Nigeria First. Thank you also for joining us today.
It's a privilege. Thank you for having us.
Okay, good morning. So let me begin with you, Prof. The president said, and a number of people, other presidential candidates also said the same thing at the time, that we're going to take Nigeria back from saboteurs, take back your country, take back Nigeria. It all sounded like rhetoric at the time. But the president now is saying that he is going to do everything he can to take Nigeria back from saboteurs. What, in your opinion, could he mean by that?
Well, thank God we have a president for now who understands what it means to look at Nigeria in a broader perspective. As against General Buhari, we had all along who is just myopic and very concentrated on one side of Nigeria, which he was not even able to take good control of. I mean, it would have been nice if partially he moves on and reach somewhere. I agree that we have saboteurs among us, and it's like you have a house and it's not airy and it's dirty. There will be mosquitoes everywhere and there will be dirty things. And that's exactly how Nigeria is. It has been allowed to be taken over by non-state actors and parallel governments, whether it's northeast, whether it's northwest, whether it's southeast. So there is need to really think about it, and it requires organization. You have to be organizational, you have to be methodic. 200 million Nigerians are not something you cannot easily count and know where they are and understand how to manage them. And for sure, having been in this polity and having been a governor before since 1999, and he had understood within Lagos perspective, he understood what it means to organize and arrange Lagos, for him even to go beyond the normal local government we have in the constitution and establish local development areas. We know that, yes, it can happen in Nigeria. You can demarcate Nigeria in such a way that it will be quite easy to send away the mosquitoes that are disturbing Nigeria. And I accept that it's possible. And he could do it if he really decide to do it, like it happened in Lagos. By having by adding more local government development areas in Lagos, you're able to plan how to locate people and know those who are anti-government and those who are not anti-government, and know how to compensate and punish those who are not helping the government. Okay. So definitely we have them in Nigeria, and he can redemarcate Nigeria to get it right.
Well, that's a beginning, right, actually. Let me ask you, Mr. Musa, particularly in the light of the Constitution. Section 24 of the Constitution it spells out the duties of the citizen, the duties of the Nigerian citizen. One of them is to make positive and useful contribution to the advancement of the nation. It also talks about respect, that it shall be the duty of every citizen to respect the dignity of other citizens and the rights and legitimate interests of others, and live in unity and harmony and in the spirit of common brotherhood. I would put this, I don't know about you, but I would put this right at the center of what the president is saying about ridding Nigeria of saboteurs and vested interests. Perhaps the challenge for me would be whether or not we have even done anything to play up the significance of the Constitution in our daily lives.
Well, I think if reading Section 24 actually, I don't read the minds of people, but maybe you have read the minds of the president, you understand that you are serving Section 24 in his mind, then it means all of us are guilty, because I doubt if there is any Nigerian that cannot be found to be wanting in terms of Section 24, the way and manner it has prescribed what is expected from each and every one of us in ensuring that this country is governed well, and that according to the constitution of the country. So, of course, maybe some of us are at the lower, our own fault may not be as high as those, like those in the southeast that are determined to impoverish their own people, the people they profess to be protecting, like the terrorists in the northwest, who are also impoverishing their own brothers and sisters in thinking that they are fighting the government of the day, killing their own people. Something with northeast, you know.
Oh dear.
Some few.
Okay, well, we'll come back to you, Mr. Musa. It will sound like the network is a little wobbly. We'll definitely come back to you. Well, Mr. Yaetok, sometimes when we engage you and I see the name of your organization, Nigeria First, I'm not sure that the saboteurs agree with you on that. But wouldn't you say, there are those who would say that it is even the polity itself that made such an opening for such people or things to exist in the first place?
Okay, thanks for having me again. And let me start by laying certain foundations that will make this conversation directional. The very first thing is that I will not like to go to chapter 25 of the Constitution, with all apologies to our learned people. You know, I'm just an architect. What do I know? I would rather go to chapter 2. No, section 25. I would rather go to chapter 2, section 14, subsection 2B. Now, the relationship between 25 and 14 is that 25 talks about responsibility of citizen, but section 14 talks about the essence of government. You are the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Before you talk to me about what I should do, tell me that you know what you should do. So within this context, you are saying, I want to, because I quote that saying, you say, the security and welfare of the citizen shall be the primary purpose of government. So my security and my welfare is got to be the essence of the discussion we are having today, which is that we want to take back the saboteurs, those who have been, and the word saboteur can be seen from two different perspectives. One is a weakener of the system, somebody who weakens the system. The other one is like a protester. Now, a protester has a constitutional right. So they are not the people that we are talking about. And the word saboteur comes from sabotage, and those are the people that seek to destroy, the system. Now, what is a system? We must understand the system within this context to be Nigeria and Nigerians. Nigeria has two sections, I'm afraid to say. There's Nigeria, that is for those people, and there's what they call Niger, that is for the younger generation. Now, for this discussion, I want to merge the two together and say both Nigeria and Niger. That means we are taking into consideration the importance of protecting the young people and accommodating them within the system.
One second, Mr. Yetuk. One second, Mr. Yetuk. Permit me to take you back a tiny little bit. The focus on Section 14 is perfect. 2B says the security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. Absolutely, you're spot on. However, do not forget that the government is made up of Nigerians, citizens, whose duties are lined up in Section 24. One of which, one or two of which I quoted the other time, to abide by the Constitution. And don't forget that every government official swears to abide by the Constitution. So no citizen swears to abide by the Constitution. But the duties are also spelled out there. So that's the reason that the focus, that I'm thinking that the focus is on that particular section. So you're correct. But then shouldn't we make it, wouldn't it be easier to get Nigerians into government who already abide by the Constitution before they have to swear to abide by it?
Exactly.
Thank you. You see, we must be contextual. And we must look at timelines. This discussion just before, Office of the Citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the biggest office in the land. It's the most important, it's the highest. We employ, I was having a discussion and I told them, the governor is my boy. And people were taken aback. How can you say so? Do you know the guy? I said, no. He who pays the piper detects the tune. The governor is employed by me. He's paid by me. The office of the citizen is an important office. But let's come back to the discussion in question. If this was before election, I can understand that citizens, you have your responsibility to choose the people that will be able to pilot the affairs of the state. But we finished with the election. A man has been elected. Let that man first buy my trust and confidence and tell me that he's coming to work for me, he's looking out at my back, and not to come and start telling me of what I should do.
No. Just Mr. Yetuk, sorry. He said he will do everything he can to take back Nigeria from vested interests. I'm the one that is now asking the question whether or not these saboteurs pay attention to the Constitution. That's the question I'm asking. That's the reason the conversation is going this way. But let me... my apologies.
No, it's just like you saying it was a thief. They are saboteurs.
Okay.
They are enemies of state.
Okay.
They are problems.
People who were ordering sit at home in the Southeast, impoverishing people for one justifiable reason in their heads or not, would you call them also saboteurs of vested interests?
Of course, they are part of the saboteurs. The fact remains that you mentioned vested interests, and it's like talking about oligarchs. It's as if Nigeria is demarcated along the line of people who, like you mentioned, vested interests, who are oligarchs, who are not helping the country as a whole to develop in its holistic approach to development. It's just segmented. Everybody goes on his own corner because he wants to get something from that corner to develop himself and maybe migrate or go and enjoy himself somewhere else. Just we have in Southeast, somebody is somewhere in Finland and trying to tell people to sit at home. Does it make sense? What is he doing there? Who are those people supporting or helping him to keep on giving that momentum to people to sit at home? I mean, it's as if they are more superior than Nigerians or those who are ruling Nigerians. So there is so much so vast. Everywhere in Nigeria we have such people. It's not different from what you see in Congo Democratic Republic. Congo Democratic Republic has been trying to, get those vested interests out of their way. Recently, they have a government that is trying to do that, but it's still not succeeding appropriately. And that's what is happening in Africa. The problem with Africa is that we don't know. Now, we have to organize ourselves. We have to put ourselves right and do what we are supposed to do to own our own country and continent.
Owning our own country and continent. Let's stick with our country for a moment. The spirit of patriotism, do you think we have it? Please address that in 30 seconds.
Yeah, but you see, patriotism, like I always refer to, you have to compare with other people. For example, it's only in 1947 you started having women and people they call slave voting in France, for example. That means they have been able to demarcate and know those who are responsible and responsive, who can also go to the polls and vote for who will rule them. Now, when you come and agglomerate people who don't even know their left and right, somehow hungry, you haven't even discovered them as citizens first, and then they are voting for you to come to power. Okay. Of course, you pay them 5 naira or 1 naira or whatever, and they just go away. They have their own vested interest in that area. Okay. They pick the 5 naira and go and sleep. Musa, so there's a problem.
You're right, sir. Yeah. Well, Mr. Musa, I hope you can hear us and you can be a part of this conversation. If you can, conclude your thoughts on the other conversation before I take you on a number of other things. You were speaking about Section 24 of the Constitution. Mr. Musa, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yes, go ahead. You go ahead and conclude your thoughts. You were speaking about the Section 24 of the Constitution.
Yes. Like I like the argument by the architect as well as what he said with respect to Section 14. And I was trying to say that both Section 14 and Section 24 are part of Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which gives the directives of objective of the state policy. So my own understanding is that whereas the government is expected to do those other things that are stated from the beginning of Chapter 2 up to Section 23, I think Section 24 is very important because it is the same Nigerians that will be governing the country, be taking offices to govern the country. So if they don't have that sense of responsibility to abide by the provision of the Constitution in their own way of life, to support the government, then certainly you cannot go anywhere. Because look, some of the things, if you have the support of the people, it cannot go, to the extent where it is today.
The question that I'll ask you, pardon me, Mr. Musa, pardon me if you can ask, if you can hear me. The question that I have there is whether or not government or the system has a way of educating Nigerians about patriotism. You probably grew up in those days when you go to the school, you read the national anthem, you read the national pledge, you come back from school, once you put on your television set, it's the Nigeria's national anthem, and then the national pledge, come on. Yes. So, those things, one way or the other, must have influenced your heart and mind about patriotism to the nation. Do you see those things really strong enough to ward off these vested interests? Because if they had those interests, the national interest at heart, I'm not sure that they will have this sabotaged mind to do the things that they do.
Well, actually, to be sincere, we lack patriotism. Because we have not been, the system is not teaching us patriotism in the school, because it is lack of patriotism that will make a lecturer to, exchange marks for money or for sex. It is lack of patriotism that will make a police officer collect some few money and allow criminals to go. It is lack of patriotism that will make a custom officer allow weapons to come in, because he collects some few money that at the end of the day, those weapons will be used to kill his people. So it is also lack of patriotism that makes the civil service not to go to work. It is lack of patriotism that makes lawyer to go and compromise a case against his client. It is lack of patriotism that makes judges to collect money and give judgment not according to the law, but according to the whims and caprices of the person who pays. So actually, when you talk of patriotism, we have a long way to go. And I hope this will start from the primary school. I mean, you see, there was this video when Obama was president. There was a day he decided to address the school children on the day they were returning school, when the day resumes. The way he talked to them, he talked about patriotism, about how they'll be useful to the country. If they read, if they obey their parents, if they obey their teachers, some of them may become police officers, some of them may become lawyers, some of them become judges, some, so many other areas. And he said that is for the good of the country. But what do we have today? We don't have that actually.
Well, how will you be able to have that, Mr. Musa? How will you be able to have that when there is a huge number of people that are poor? Reference what Mr. Nyayetok said the other time about the security and welfare of the people being the primary responsibility of government. So in a situation where people are too poor to even think for themselves, how can they think for the nation? So it goes back to what Mr. Nyayetok said the other time about the responsibility of government to ensure that their lives, the security and welfare of people are lined up well. How do you see government doing that in order to be able to bolster their confidence in the nation?
I agree with that, but you see, these things are intertwined in the sense that you cannot separate what the responsibility of the government and the responsibility of the citizen. Because no matter how, look, the government cannot just take food and put on the table of the people. People must work, and people must also understand that they cannot just give birth to children beyond what is their responsibility. And they think that money will come from manna for them to feed their children. No. A lecturer who knows that his salary is just enough to take care of his wife and 4 children, not go and marry 4 or 5 or 6 wives and have 10 children and now start blaming the government for that. Certainly no. So as much as I agree that, yes, the government must be up to its responsibility in protecting citizens, protecting lives and property, so also we'll be doing our own.
Okay.
When we praise legislators for getting employment, influencing the way army employment in the police force is done, employment in the armed forces is done, what are we talking about?
Okay, let me bring this to Mr. Nyayetok.
We praise our legislators.
Pardon me, Mr. Musa.
For facilitate.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Mr. Nyayetok has some answers to the issues that you have raised. Mr. Nyayetok, go ahead.
Number one is that we must agree that patriotism cannot be legislated. We must understand that, number one. You cannot legislate patriotism. You earn the trust of the people. Let me tell you something. If you gave me a gold pen and told me that this gold pen is mine, and that as it's on this table, I should make sure nobody takes it, because I see my personal interest, I will not even sleep at night. I will watch that gold pen, because by the time you come back in the morning, you are going to give it to me. But if I just know that this gold pen belongs to those people and is wanting me to stay awake at night to watch what is their own and lose my sleep, all I can tell you, I'm sorry I slept off. It's natural. And
Mr. Nyayetok, on that, and I'm glad that you brought that up that way. Recently, in the course of the week on Sunrise Daily, we spoke about 1 or 2 things. We saw a video of a young man, driving a minibus, right, and stealing state infrastructure on the roads. things used to cover drainages, they were being stolen. In the course of the week as well, we saw Mr. Martins, I think his name is, from the Federal Ministry of Works, on the second Niger Bridge, showing us a part of the bridge that was removed by some people. Yes, thankfully, the integrity of the bridge is not compromised. And that is not the only one. We could go on and on. In Lagos, we see it all the time. And I'm pretty sure in the state where you live as well. You see people who vandalize government property. Meanwhile, it is the citizens' property, because if it was government property, it would be with government. But it is the citizens' property. If we do not have that sense of patriotism, how will we be able to protect the things that government put in place for our own use?
I'll tell you this. I'll give you a live situation. You know, I contested to be the governorship of my state. During the process, I went to, out of the 226 villages, I went to over 2,000 of them. In some, I gathered people from every village to come and tell me the problems of their village. Something happened that just weakened me as an individual. In a particular village, the lady was saying that the borehole is no longer working because the young people went and removed the small pump to go and sell. And when I tried to say, why can't they do that? A lady stood up. He said, sir, you don't know what is going on in this village. Sir, you can go ahead and tell them what you want. These young people are frustrated. They have no food. Why can you not take it to go and sell and get food to eat? Now, I didn't like that. But somebody is actually justifying the terrible act of another person. And as much as I hated that, but the fact is that we owe Nigerians to give them the barest minimum and let them know that you have their back. Our leaders owe us to be able to tell us that they are watching us. Now look at what is going on today. We are complaining of minimum wage on one hand, and then RAMFAC, or whatever they call them, is thinking of increasing the salaries of public office holders. Do you know how infuriating this is? Do you know what Nigerians are suffering? Let me end on this note, because this topic is a large topic that cannot be exhausted in one whole. I want two things from Nigerians, our leaders. Number one, please show honesty and sincerity of purpose. Please, whatever it takes. Number two, the most important agency in the Federal Republic of Nigeria is not Ministry of Finance, not Ministry of Works. It is a National Orientation Agency. Let Nigerians, let the leadership try to bring back Nigerians to take care of Nigerians. The president alone cannot take back Nigerians.
Okay.
The generality of Nigerians can take back Nigerians collectively, and you start by showing them that Nigeria is our country. As of today, the young people see Nigeria as their country. That's why they created Niger, which is their country, where they provide their water, they provide their school, they provide everything. Okay. We need to merge Nigeria and Niger and make every Nigerian feel that you've got their back.
Okay. Well, Prof, the president said he wants to take back Nigeria from vested interests. Let's begin to proffer some solutions or guidance, or at least point the president in a direction he may not be looking at. The federal government of Nigeria has 36 states, including the FCT. It also has officially 774 local government areas. And there are quite a number of local council development areas. I know that there are about 37 in Lagos. I don't know how many there are in Kano. A number of other states have local council development areas that have not become local governments themselves. And there are countless wards, 176,000, according to INEC as at the last count, more than 176,000. In terms of vested interests, where are they?
Well, people entering into belonging to those oligarchs, or those who really want to poach them out of patriotism to get them into their own side. Nigeria has been going through this for almost 20 years, you know, because people come to government and fail to be responsible, like you are saying. To have a responsible and responsive government, the National Assembly is there, the legislature or the judiciary is there, and the executive is there. they earn almost the bulk of the money Nigeria is making every day. What is wrong in saying, okay, like you mentioned, if we have 774 local government, let me redemarcate it to 10,000 communities or 100,000 communities, which is not quite difficult to manage. Assume you have Nigeria of 100,000 communities, and you decide to locate the communities and take away the young ones who are now growing, who you have to make to be responsible tomorrow. Because normally they say 18 years is the entitlement age to vote. Before the person gets to the 18 years, which is entitled to vote, he must have seen what government has done for him to be responsible, to go and vote responsibly also. But if that is not there, I mean, there is no way. We have schools that are not functioning. First and foremost, delayed gratification we are talking about is getting people to know that getting what you want in life does not start from the day you were born. You must be propped up and you must be educated, you must be proved to, you must have a proof that you are in a country that you have to safeguard. Because people say, you can choose where you want to migrate to or who wants to be your friend, but you cannot choose who are your parents and where you want to be born.
In that light, Prof,
you know,
do you see us as a nation creating that system wherein people put Nigeria before their own personal interests?
It is possible. It has been done elsewhere. It's not a rocket science project.
What needs to be done?
I mean, you demarcate a country, you know, from local government to local government, ward to ward, and you know who are there and what they are doing. And if I should borrow the terms of Maslow, physiological need. If you satisfy the physiological need of people, which is basically food, shelter, and you are able to locate people where they are, and you can easily tell them, look, Nigeria earns not less than whatever. If they say 200 or 2 million barrels of oil gets away of Nigeria every day, if you are to distribute that to 200 million Nigeria, they will get 500 naira, each of us now. So what does it mean? That a government is not able to manage resources very well to make sure that physiological need of people are taken care of. Because if you don't do that, it's like the growth is stunted. The person will be growing in the dark. And the moment you leave that physiological need, because most countries have been able to really place that physiological need to be an abstract. It's no more part of what they disturb themselves about.
Oh dear.
So that you'll be able to wake up to be patriotic.
Well, Mr. Musa, let me take you up on this, following from what we just heard Prof say. There are those who would look at these issues completely differently from the way we are looking at it. The president, for instance, in the course of the week also spoke about that conditional, well, they call it digital transfer now, of 8,000 naira from for each individual, 12 million Nigerians who are poor and vulnerable, according to the federal government. Now, there are 133 million poor Nigerians who are multidimensionally poor. One way or the other, they are poor. But then in the social register, there are 46 million Nigerians that are poor and vulnerable. But the federal government is saying, to start with, 8,000 naira over 6 months to 12 million Nigerians, making a little over 6 million households. Now, politics, we have heard, is a game of interests. Now, the president is saying he wants to take Nigeria away from vested interests. Now, the people who are going to be distributing this is just an instance, just an example. The people who will execute this policy of government, they are human beings, they are Nigerians. How do you see patriotism playing out over and above their own personal interests as well. I know you spoke about civil servants the other time, that if they were patriotic, they would do the needful. How do we ensure that?
I think and how he wants it to be done, and he must have listened to some advice that is making him to come to the conclusion that the 12 million Nigerians are those that are in the need of that. Mind you, we have a ministry that is involved in the issue of the social investment and disaster management. So, and I'm sure the previous government had done a lot of work in conjunction with the state in coming up with those vulnerable Nigerians. And the interesting things about what happened previously, as I know, the government tried as much as it can not to put politics, because what it did was, irrespective of who is the governor of the state, the political party of the governor of the state, he was involved in the last 8 years in coming up with those who were to be assisted as vulnerable in the society. So, and I think the elites that are saying that 8,000 is nothing, because we are in the social media, we don't really understand what it means to be poor. I can assure you, those 12 million Nigerians don't earn 8,000 per month. So it is going to be of great assistance to them in a big way. But I think when we talk about this patriotism, I think we must start seeing the problem from us. I mean, when we have this approach of thinking that we are not the problem, other people are the problem, then we cannot solve it. You see lecturers sitting in the university giving lecture in a hall that has about 2,000 students, castigating the government, saying the government has not done anything for those people. I mean, making them feel that the government has not done anything for them. Well, none of those 2,000 students paid any tuition fee. The place is provided by the government. The teacher that is saying that is being paid by the government to come and teach. So if teachers will start from the point that, yes, the government has done this, the government has done this. Remember that you that gain admission into the university, you are not the only Nigerians. There are about 2 million applied. Only about 100,000 get admitted into the whole universities. It means you are privileged. The government has done a lot for you. So, and the government did that on behalf of the Nigerians. So a lot is expected from you. But the government could have done this. So once we make it in such a way that students and pupils in primary and secondary school will see that, yes, there are things the state has done for them. We should educate people to know that being able to trek from their houses to the school is because the government has provided security. That has been done. The school may not be the way it ought to be, but at least there are things that have been done within the limited resources of the government. I'm not saying that the government there is no corruption in the system. But if we try not to be positive in our thinking, in the way we raise up kids, in the way we teach our students in the universities, we cannot have the system of leadership, the type of government we want. So we must start from there. We must be positive. Lecturers should know that they have a responsibility to instill patriotism in those they teach. Teachers should know that. Parents should know that. When you are driving.
Okay, well. Okay.
My kids, don't sit at your home in your parlor with your kids. When somebody called you, you said I'm on my way to Lagos, while you are sitting with your kids. And then tomorrow you tell them not to tell lies. No, you have taught them how to tell lies. These are all things that if we don't do that, we'll never have a good country for ourselves.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Nyaitok, so it would seem like the president has spoken on behalf of the federal government and has said, okay, we're going to take back Nigeria from vested interest. And you made it clear the other time the president cannot do it alone. So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Prof. Hare. Where are the vested interests? Where are the saboteurs?
I wish you would allow me a minute to chip in on this 500 billion stuff. Do I have your permission? Very quickly, very important.
Go ahead.
Good. The very first thing is that I want us to consider two scenarios. In 6 months, 8 million Nigerians have been given food to eat, and they have food to eat, and that is it. And after 6 months, God decides what to do with them. Scenario A. Scenario B, I choose to build an enterprise estate in each of the 360 federal constituencies. Each of these six months, say 1 year, you can either have people who have eaten for 6 months and God takes care of them thereafter, or we have an enterprise estate in each of the 360 federal constituencies where you have 200 one-bedroom apartments with a productive center and eco economy that is attached to it, that's going to be there for the next 10, 15 years, and the production is going to be done, and each of these units is built by a local who apply the sand, who supply the cement, who supply the manpower, who supply the everything. So we have 500 billion naira entering the most local of the units, and there's something that is sustainable. Now, my concern is that we should stop thinking the way we were thinking before, where we carry 500 billion, and at the end of 6 months, we scratch our heads as where we do. It's another subsidy that is a scam that will go nowhere because you can't even tell. The second disadvantage is that my neighbor, whom I'm probably poorer than, is collecting 8,000 every month. And I know I'm poorer than the person, and yet I'm left. So how patriotic am I going to be?
The question then is, how come your name is not on the register? But anyway,
that's the point, because it's not everybody the register has about 40 million as of today, but they're only going to give to about 8 million.
12 million actually. 12 million. Yes. But you know, yes, it's a conversation opener. Just so you know, we're just starting the conversation, just raising the issues for government to speak to. But go ahead with your final thoughts.
I'll end on this. Number one, let the president show us, one, I care. I care about you. Number two, let's work together, because together we are the better for it. First, I care about you. Number two, let's work together. Number three, we know that this cannot go on, but you can see the plan I'm putting. It might be difficult today, but it's going to be better tomorrow. And hope, I think it was Winston Churchill that said, hope is the anchor that stabilizes the soul. Sell us hope by leading by example, and we would have started a journey of having a Nigeria that we all take back together.
Mr. Musa, your final thoughts, 30 seconds.
Well, I wish the president well. I wish he'll be able to achieve that. The way he has removed the fuel subsidy, which some few people are benefiting from it more than all Nigerians, I hope he will have the wisdom to appoint the people that will assist him to transfer that back to the Nigerians so that the hardship can be reduced. And I hope in other areas to be able to take back this country from the terrorists in the southeast, the terrorists in the northwest, and those in the other part of the country, so that we can continue to build a better country for all of us.
Prof, your final thoughts.
Well, I feel no fewer than 100,000 youth corps are deployed presently or whatever, you know. I feel this could be a step into patriotism by getting them to be mobilized and go into the nook and crannies of Nigeria and maybe help to retract these children or poor people that are to be, you know, to go into the hands of, who are going into the hands of these saboteurs, and see how, you know, it could be done. And from there, the money you want to share, use this youth corps as, if you like, compass point.
A question you guys didn't know, none of you has answered. Maybe I'll take you all around on that one. Is that these saboteurs that I think the president is talking about, they are the ones responsible for oil thefts. They are the ones responsible for humongous things that ordinary Nigerians, poor ordinary Nigerians, may not be able to muster courage to take on themselves. So that's why I'm asking, where are these vested interests?
Yeah, but we know people have shown us, like the recent one that happened in either Niger Delta, somewhere there, with this big oil trade, whatever. And the man said he called the boss. And the boss said, you should leave the place. The boss, for sure, is not a ghost. It's a human being. And it can only be the government that has the power, the military, the force, to go after this boss. We know them. The vested interests are like oligarchs we are hearing in Russia. They are also powerful people. And then the government knows them. For example...
You're sure the government knows
Of course, government knows them. People know that the government knows them. It's not that the government is not capable. That's all.
Mr. Nyeto, do you agree that the government knows these saboteurs? Mr. Nyeto, okay, maybe you're on mute.
Yes. Read my lips. They know all of them.
Okay.
Government knows the terrorists, knows those who are into bunkering. They know those into pipeline vandalization. They know the people, they know the bankers that know the bank accounts of these people that cannot be explained. Government knows them.
Okay.
If our president wants to take care of them, let him just do what El Rufai did when he wanted to sanitize Abuja. Take care of 1, 2, 3, and then the others will run away.
Mr. Musa, do you agree that the federal government is aware of who these vested interests and saboteurs are?
If the federal government is not aware, the president couldn't have said that he's going to take Nigeria back from them. Of course, it's because he's aware of them, but then fighting them has to be systematic. I always want people to remember when Buhari came, he declared this man wanted. And we know what happened within that time when the militant went after the pipeline. So Nigeria nearly collapsed. So he had to stay back and engage him in some form of dialogue. So it is not easy actually, because the saboteurs, some of them, unfortunately, the poor people are seeing them as their saviors because they give them crumbs from what they get. Okay. So the government must be systematic. It cannot just take up all of them at the same time. Oh, yeah. But I pray that God give him the wisdom to do what is right within the time, so that we can be able to check some of them and bring back patriotism among the country citizens so that they can help. So that we cannot have a situation like what happened in Haiti, when the government wanted to arrest a drug baron. The poor people came to protect him, they say.
Oh dear. Well, gentlemen, we have to thank you so much for this, for being a part of the conversation this morning.
At the end of the day, because son of it.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for being here. Sunusi Musa is a senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts. We've also had Ezekiel Nyaetok, founder, Nigeria First. Thank you so much, gentlemen, as well as, of course, Professor Victor Arele, who is a professor of French and Francophone studies. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you.
Sunrise returns after this short break. We'll be right back.
On behalf of the Progressive Governors Forum, I, Senator Hope Uzodinma, CON, the Executive Governor of Imo State, most heartily congratulate Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, on his emergence as the new chairman of Economic Community of West African State, ECOWAS. Your Excellency, your choice as the chairman of the sub-regional organization at this infancy of your presidency speaks volume of the trust and confidence your colleagues have not only on Nigeria but your personal capacity. I have no doubt that your chairmanship of this august body would bring about positive changes that will strengthen its capacity to tackle the current economic and security challenges. Mr. President, be assured of our prayers and support as you embark upon this task of rebuilding both Nigeria and ECOWAS. Congratulations, sir. Senator Hope Uzodinma, Chairman Progressive Governors Forum of Nigeria and Governor, Imo State.
So hard to find, but they're still heavy on my mind tonight. The pain is deep inside, but I still want to hide. Happy birthday!
Is this what you really want to do?
Yes, Dad. That's what I've been trying to show you.
Fight for your dreams the advanced way with Glow LTE Advanced. The power of 3 data networks in one. Get a Glow SIM or dial *301 hash.
First, let me say to you, I cannot wait to see you. You are the treasure I've been waiting for. Do you know how much I really need you? I dey pray for the day when I can finally kiss you. You know, say every day I dey pray for you. Oh, in my heart there's a permanent place for you. That's why my heart it dey beat like do bad. 'Cause now you I choose so I am very young. I sing for you wanna be like do bad. Baby now you I go big boy I am very young. But there we go. See I may not give the world to you, but I'll give you what I have. Oh baby, oh, you are my angel, Koduro life, me, oh. Shabby, you know, say every day I dey pray for you. Oh, in my heart, oh, there's a permanent place for you. That's why my heart it dey beat like do bad. 'Cause now you are true, so I am very young. I sing for you wanna be like do bad. Baby, now you I go big boy, I am very young. Only for you it'll be like.
You see that position? You can only do one.
1 minute.
I'm not talking to you yet. Please don't. Please. I can only do one press up. Okay. Anyway, since he wants to yab me, yeah. Because you know, this is a lifestyle segment, of course, and is fitness? Can you make fitness a lifestyle? You know, if your answer is yes. Let's find out how you can. Because people who have a lifestyle of fitness, they exercise regularly or not, they enjoy themselves and they have personal satisfaction in what they do. How do you attain a lifestyle of fitness? Do you exercise anytime and every time? Do you cut down on carbs, as they say? Stop taking this, stop eating that? Eat this, eat that at so time of the day. This is the quantum of swallow that you can have at any given time. Let's speak to Joel Uzamere this morning. He is CEO, Institute of Fitness Professionals. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Now you can speak.
Okay, so what you showed before the camera went to you was a plank position.
Plank?
Yeah.
Is that the plank position? I thought that was just the push-up system.
Yeah, well,
plank, you have to put your elbows on.
Yeah, no, not necessarily. So there's high plank and there's low plank. So since the picture didn't show him moving up and down, that position is the plank position. And when you say you can only do one, what do you mean? Only one push-up? You need one of my students as your personal trainer in your life. Honestly, I don't know, but okay, off camera, we'll talk about it. I mean, in no time,
you guys are costly. Come on,
okay, let's go about something else. Let's move on.
But let's talk about the lifestyle of fitness.
Yeah.
How can that be done? There are those who fear the whole idea of fitness, of exercising. In fact, the merely thinking about exercising is pressure on its own for them. But then we also know, everybody knows that you need to be fit.
True.
Getting there is like crossing from Lagos to Maiduguri.
Yes. But there are different ways you can get to Maiduguri.
Okay, you can fly.
Yeah.
All the same, you have to move.
Yes.
Is that moving? That's the problem.
And there are about a couple of things that you need to do in order to make fitness a lifestyle. And some of them involve beyond yourself. But I'll start with the first couple of things. First of all, when we talk about fitness as a lifestyle, it is when you do not see fitness as a quick fix, when you don't see fitness as I need to look like this in a few minutes. If you see fitness as a means to ensure that you live a healthier life, an optimal life, if you see fitness as that which you do that gives you enough energy to go about your business, if you see fitness in that sense, then it's different than, oh, I want to bulk up, I want to lose weight, I want to be able to fit into that dress. When all that is taken away and you see fitness as something that you must do, then it's different. Now, so when
it starts with perspective.
Yes, it starts with a lot of commitment and consistency. That word is the first thing I will say before I even start to talk about what kinds of exercises you should do so that you don't get discouraged or stop yourself. But the first thing is that consistency, and that you're thinking in your mind longevity. You're thinking about your whole life. That I'm going to be doing this my whole life.
Not just for 6 months.
Not just for 6 months. Not just for 1 year. That's why fitness should be your lifestyle. Your lifestyle is who you are, what you do. You know. So, I always say, as much as you eat every day, you should exercise every day. So the truth is that, as you said, there are many factors that affect people from actually progressing in their exercise. I'll give you an example. The first is the kind of workout you are doing. I've said it here before.
But before we go to the workouts that they need to do for fitness, how about we look at their lifestyles?
Okay.
And find a way to fit in the fitness routine or regimen into it.
Yes.
There are those who have regular jobs, 9 to 5 jobs. You know when you resume work, you know when you close work, and there are traffic hours to add.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 hours before your resumption, or 4 or 5 hours after your resumption before you get home, and all of those things. Then there are those who don't have regular schedules, like they have to run shifts, morning shift, afternoon shift, 8 hours, depending on what the job that they do is. And then people are in different social strata in every society.
Yeah.
So is there a way we can categorize what they need to consider in their schedules?
So
yes, I know it's a lot of money.
Yeah, so it's like saying you go to the hospital and instead of seeing a doctor, everybody just pick a drug and drive through. There's no drive-through hospital. There's a reason why there is the blood pressure and there's a consultation before you're then given a drug. And that is really what we do at the Institute of Exercise Professionals. We are training trainers that know, for instance, what metabolic equivalent is, what is the med value. So, for instance, if I was talking about you, the individual, you will tell me what you're doing throughout the day. And what you're doing throughout the day, I can then calculate based on the activities you do throughout the day to say, okay, based on your activity, you lose, this is the amount of calories you're burning. I would then compare that with what we call the basal metabolic rate. That means the amount of calories that your body needs to function as a person.
So pause. Just to be clear, what you're saying is, in the daily routine of some people, they already lose calories.
Yes.
So, but you also should add that in their daily routines, they add calories from the food they eat.
Yes, but listen to what you asked me. You asked me how can how is it possible that in their lifestyle they can work? The first thing I said was that you first of all know what they are doing.
Okay.
It's a process. After you do that, you then find out what is their basal metabolic rate. Now, that means that what is the amount of calories that their body uses just to sustain itself. Now, when you have that value, you then move to what they eat. How many calories are they bringing into that body? Compared to what they are burning. You see where we're going?
In their work schedule.
Yeah, so in their work schedule, you find out that in their work schedule, they are doing about 500 calories. And then they are eating 2,000 calories. We already know that there's 1.5 storing up somewhere. That's one. Number two, you want to find out stress, because when you work in a place that is stressful, when you have a lot of stress and you're not doing proper stress management, there are even things in your body that begin to increase your weight, that help you to that will not make you to be storing fat excessively. So the stress level of that work, what they are eating, what their basal metabolic rate is, will now determine what kind of workout you want to give them. Now, having said that,
okay,
let's talk about you, because it's very difficult to just be.
You will come to me, but
okay,
I want to make it a little graphic for the viewer.
Okay.
The fellow who does manual labor, the bricklayers, the carpenters, and all those people who do, you know, all those things. Assume the number of calories they burn compared to the secretary.
Yeah.
Who is, I'm just so that we understand, compared to the secretary who has 3 meals a day, but
just types up.
Largely sits down to type and maybe takes 20 minutes tops break in a day to walk up and down, because if you get up from where you are to go sit down to eat, the number of minutes, and then, you know, so try to help us understand that, so that people understand how easy it is to add weight without even knowing that you are.
Fantastic. I mean, I think you've said it. Someone sitting down and typing, as we call it 3 METs. They have 3 METs. When you're not active, you have 0 METs. But when you are seated, you have 3 METs. That means that you are burning almost nothing. So when you sit there, you remember you want to eat, you walk to go and eat. That is not even up to 100 calories, you know, by the time you calculate the whole day. Now, of course, at the end of the day, that woman will have lower back pain. She will be obese, which will lead to other lifestyle diseases.
You are assuming that it's a she, so
you said it
before we come. I thought you. I said the secretary.
Oh, I
could be a guy, please.
Yes,
it's not me. Oh, it's him.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's okay because she also comes to the gym. So anyway, so when he or she does that, what you will find is you will obviously be gaining weight. Okay, and because you're bored, you're typing, you have things that you're taking plantain chips and you're taking all sorts of snack, and then before you know it, you're asking yourself, I don't know how I look like this. So when I was young, I was slim. And you're looking at the person like, yeah, you don't know how you. I mean, yeah, we both don't know. Obviously, you left physical fitness. You forgot about the fact that your body will store up all the things you're eating. So that person's lifestyle, that is not an healthy lifestyle, because the minute you're obese, other lifestyle diseases will come. All sorts of stuff. Even with women, it affects their hormonal system. You know, some people can't even have children. Some are they're always tired. You know, so it comes with so many other things, apart from cardiovascular diseases that are killing people and all that. We all know that. But that it affects even to her home. She gets home, she can't do anything. You know, and then she'll enter that traffic and then she'll come back. Now, compare that to the guy you said is a carpenter, or the woman that is a carpenter that's working. Yeah, he's busy working, you know, cutting that, or even if he's using a machine, he's putting the wood through it, he's working, he's standing. The MET value for standing is about 7 METs, just standing.
Speak English. What does that mean?
Metabolic equivalent is what. So we calculate calories based on energy bonds with a compendium of exercise
added to it.
Yes,
so essentially that explains that. Even standing.
Standing is not the same as sitting. Yes.
Okay.
Sitting is not the same as lying down. They are different. So when you're sitting and you're watching a TV, you're watching TV, it's good, but you should ensure that you're walking around because walking is better than that. Now, having said all this, we say there is no time. We complain that it's traffic. Let me say what we are doing now. Now, I was here the last time. We were talking about We Move and all that. And we're actually doing that now. There are companies saying to me, how can you ensure that I have employees that are vibrant, that are they have enough energy for their work, and the work is not killing them, because at the end of the day, the work is not. It's supposed to be an ends to a means, not your life. So what we are doing is that in the offices, we are designing 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30-minute programs for individuals in their workplace, okay, that they can do and go back to work.
So, which is the essence of this thing? I didn't even know about this one, but it's the essence of the entire conversation we're having now. So how can people build that into their workspace, into their personal lives? No, leave the corporates.
Yes.
What are the, how, okay, now let's talk about how, and then we'll now look at what. How can people build it in? You've spoken about commitment and consistency. Yeah. Starting is always a tough one.
Okay. Now, let me put it this way. You know, I wish I had a button I could press for you and then you start. But the truth is, if you're about to die and you are told that the only way for this sickness to stop or to go is by taking a drug, we all take the drug, won't we? Because really, no one wants to die. Yeah? And so I'm telling Nigerians, if you do not get up and exercise, you will just kill yourself. You have to stand up and exercise. Now, when I say an exercise, it's then relative. Now, which is where I want to get to. What do you do? Where do you stay? Now, if it's for an individual, the first thing, one of the things you can do, look at Mark, I hope it's okay to talk about it. This thing trending now with the owner of
Threads.
Yeah, we call it Threads,
yes.
and
Facebook,
and yes, and this other guy, the fighter from UFC, Adesanya, I don't know that's his name, and people were like, wow, look at this guy, he looks fit. No, he didn't get that by going to the gym. He decided to go into a sport called judo, and judo has discipline. Okay, it has consistency. It teaches you self-esteem. And he decided to use that sport as a means to ensure that he lives an healthy lifestyle. Okay? So even though he has money, he's not busy buying all the snack on you know, that his eyes can see. Even though he has money, he's not eating whatever he can buy. He's eating what will ensure that his mind, you are seeing his body, but that man is doing that for his mind, to ensure that his mind can continue to think beyond the average person. And of course, the benefits you see in his body. But he's not doing that because he wants to compete with Adesanya, for instance, or he wants to fight. He has simply looked for a sport that he loves, and he's doing that. So you can pick up cycling, you can pick up just walking, you can pick up swimming, you can pick up anything that you know that you enjoy doing. Now, when you do that, when you start with what you enjoy, you will see the benefits, and that will lead you to start to do something different from what you generally will enjoy.
Okay, will it help?
Yeah.
If you talked about taking up walking now.
Yes.
Will it help if someone, for instance, who would normally have taken a bus or a cab or a bike or something from one point to a bigger bus stop, would it help for that person to take a long walk instead? Factor in, instead of taking a bike for, say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes, take a long walk of, say, 30 minutes to that bus stop. Will it help?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. And, you know, let me say this. It may not seem important, but we are people of communication. It's things that we see and that we hear that we'll keep doing. So when I talked about corporate organization, when we talk about putting things in a corporate organization where people are aware to the benefits of exercise, that person leaves work, sees that sign that says, don't forget to walk that mile or something that we've put up there. And there's traffic. And he or she knows that it's 15 minutes, you know, or 20 minutes walk to my house. I've said it before, and I have clients that is actually what we do. There is a sneakers in their car. There's a trainers in that car. They wear it and walk home. Now, that doesn't have to, that is even a physical activity. It's not planned, it's not structured, yeah? But that's even you moving. That is better than you just waiting in that car and then enjoying your air conditioning and waiting till you get to, you know, your destination. And then you come down, you sit down again on the couch and and then you put your TV onto channels to watch you. Yeah? Whereas you can actually start walking from that point all the way down. Now, the reason why that is not for everyone is because you have insecurity. People tell you there are different levels of people. Some people just take the opportunity. Is that you need to look for a professional that can help you look at your work schedule, look at your life, and say, based on this, this is what you can do, and this is the intensity that you should do it, and this is how consistently you should do it. For instance, let me say this to you. Do you know that if you run every day, it's not good for your body? Did you know that? If you run every day, it's not good for your body.
So now we have a problem.
Yeah, no. Let me say this. Everybody wants to do something that is health-based without a professional. How do you get into exercising without consulting someone that knows what he's doing? How do you even bake a cake? Or how do you even drive a car if you don't have someone that knows what he's doing?
YouTube.
Oh, it's the beginning of trouble. One of my students got into trouble with YouTube.
Oh, really?
So there's something called PNF stretch. It's proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitating stretch. We use it for our clients to increase their range of movement. So it was an exam. So I told them, you are going to, do this test. And then I taught them. You know what she did? Went on YouTube, listened to something else. And what I taught, I don't know, for some reason, what she was doing. And then she came doing practical to do that. And I said, so what are you doing? She said, no, that this was wrong. And when I said it's wrong, she wanted to argue that, sir, I saw this thing because it was a white person that was doing it. And so I said, can you take me to the YouTube? Guess what we found out? The person that published the video was a student who did a video to submit to our own tutor so that she can be assessed. I don't know if you get.
It was just for assessment.
It was for assessment. So obviously she failed that test. And so by the time we came back and I said, what is your textbook? What is the meaning of proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation? So we discussed, sorry that I'm going on that, but,
okay.
But it's techniques where you have to do with what we call antagonist, agonist, rest, and assistor. So when I remembered that the science behind it, she then said, oh, yes. And that was a learning moment for even myself to say, YouTube is good when you know what you're looking for. I can watch that video and say, oh, okay, this one, maybe she made a mistake. She was going to submit this video and then I'll scroll down and look for a better video. Do you get the point? So people watch YouTube to learn squats, but they don't know how to do a squat.
Please help me now and help millions who are watching and will watch this video.
Yeah.
Many people want to. There are a number of things that are like, thankfully we have more time than we planned.
Oh, great.
There are a number of people who want to do these things.
Yeah.
They fear not just the cost to start, but to sustain. They may not be able to sustain it. So the one way to go about it is to get YouTube videos.
Which I understand.
So when people are looking for such help, you are making a sacrifice coming here in the first place to tell us about it. So please help us. When people go online to look for exercise routines they can do by themselves because they can't afford to pay fitness experts and they have to do it, what should they look out for? First, what are the questions they should ask themselves? Is there a quiz they need to take online or something that will say, okay, this is good for you, this is not good for you? Okay. I know it's a tough one.
Yes. So because, I mean, anyone can do a material, throw it out there, and it becomes something that people are watching. But I think what you want to do first is find out who is telling you to do this exercise. Do you know the person? Is the person certified, or does the person just look bulked up and looks muscular? And because of that, wow, this guy must know what he's doing.
6 packs.
Yeah, 6 packs is there and all that. And say, oh, so the guy knows what he's doing. But more importantly is one of the responsibilities we have taken upon ourselves. Now, one of the challenges is that if the fitness community, those who are in the fitness industry, do not begin to advocate and tell people that for you to do any training, talk to a fitness professional, then people think they can actually start a fitness regimen without them. Now, let me say this. If I do a personal training, for instance, I don't do a personal training more than 3 months. And if you say why, I tell you because I'm there for 3 months
to start you
up. To start you up. I want to help you to change your lifestyle. I'm not there to keep training you because I can't.
You're not there for the person nursery, primary, secondary.
No. I don't even have the time for that. So some people say, please do it up to 6 months. And when I see that there is a real need for that, I then do it. And that's how we're training students. That trainers are supposed to train you to be independent, to be able to say, I can do this on my own. Or at least I can do the major parts on my own, and then
occasionally you come to consult.
And that should happen also in the gym environment. I won't mention the gyms, but we have some gyms that we're working with that when you come into that gym, what they're teaching you is a lifestyle. And so they're telling you, they will do a complete assessment for you, find out how you're doing with your cardiovascular, muscular strength and all that, and then begin to teach you how to do these exercises so that by yourself, you can actually continue doing that. Now, can you consult videos on YouTube and all that? Yes, you can. Now, because it's free world, there's no way you might be able to confirm what is being done. But I'll advise that if you're a beginner, look for a trainer. Ask them, are you certified? And if they're certified, ensure that it's not $1-2 certification that they bought online, because that is everywhere now. Ensure that they've gone through at least an European qualification framework. Our educational system uses that there in Nigeria. And so we at the institution are members of the European Register of Exercise Professionals. So we give our students European qualification framework certifications, so that even if you want to know the trainers, all you have to do is type the person and say, oh, IREP, is this person certified? And we can get back to you and say, yes, this person is certified. So this is what is done in the Western world. You don't just wake up in the morning and say you're a trainer. There is where you can confirm there's a trainer ID number. Okay. When I was in UK, I had a trainer ID number. So that if you say you're a trainer, they just check that ID number and they can say, okay, this person is certified or not. So that is part of it. Okay. But I would advise as a beginner, it is important to talk to a fitness professional because of so many factors.
Particularly the person's health.
Exactly.
We'll take about 2 or 3 minutes break in a moment or two. But let me just, see to this because there is someone... perhaps to validate what you're just saying now, there's someone I know who was taking some exercise routines, and along the line went to see a medical practitioner for something else. And the medical practitioner said, you shouldn't be doing this kind of exercise because of your muscles, because you may bust a muscle here and there, so the person altogether stopped exercising.
Exactly, that's what happens. That is my fear. That is exactly the point. It's the minute you start exercising the wrong way, aside from overtraining where you are extremely fatigued, which is not training, and then injuries because you are doing the wrong exercise or you are doing it in the wrong way, this is something that I also fear. Because the person will just shut down and say, you know what, I want to live longer. I don't think I want to get injured because I have to go to the gym. Yeah, so you're actually you're spot on. And this is something we need to watch. Which is why I keep saying, go back to someone that is qualified so that they do the test to know what you can do and what you cannot do.
How serious is that?
It is extremely serious. So let me say this. There's something called a PAQ form. It's called the Physical Activity Questionnaire. Now, it's just 7 questions. It's been designed over 11 years ago by physiologists in Canada. It's used globally. And it's used in a gym environment. Before you start doing any form of physical activity, whether it's sport or you're in the gym, you must fill that form. Now, the form is a yes or no question. It means there's any yes in it. A qualified fitness trainer knows to contact your doctor and tell them, hi, my name is this. I'm a trainer. She was filling a PAQ form. We found this. Can you tell us more about her? Now, there's also a qualification, because I'm a GP referred trainer, meaning that I work with doctors in the recovery process of patients, using fitness as a means of recovery. So I'm trained to know what to do at that point, but I will still contact the doctor and tell the doctor that based on what I found, that this is the program that I have set for this particular client. And then the doctor can say, okay, that makes sense. I can see that there's not a lot of high intensity work out there. I can see that you're protecting the joint. I can see that your range of movement is all right so that the person doesn't get injured, because there's a recovery way of actually training. So this is why if you fall into the hands of someone that some people have come to our school and say, you know, can you just give me the certificate? You know, I've been training for the past 10 years. And I just smile. Great. Why don't you attend one class and then come back and speak to me? Nobody comes back. Because they then find out that, what have I been doing? It's the same thing that happened to me. I was a trainer for about 3-4 years before I went to the UK and I got trained. My first class, I'm not exaggerating, I had tears in my eyes. Because I'm like, what have I been doing for the past 5 years? And post that, I've been certified for the past, that's about 12, 13 years post that. And there's no client that I have gotten into that I have not been able to help transform their life. And which is why we actually started the institute, because we found out that people are in the gym, they have the muscles, they have the low belly, but they are telling other people to do what they are doing, thinking that because they moved left, then the other person should move left to get what they don't know anything about physiology, kinesiology, and all those things.
Okay. A number of things that I'd like to ask, and I'd like you to expatiate as much as possible.
Yeah.
What are the benefits of a lifestyle of fitness? I ask that question advisedly. So at some point in their individual lives, some routines will change. For instance, a woman would get pregnant.
Yes.
So naturally her regimen would change. Before we even go to the benefit, you know, maybe we want to speak to the lifestyle changes that have to be.
Yes, so thank you for that question. It is so important. Now, let me say this to you. More than you getting pregnant, if your routine is not changing, you can never have any gain. So let me tell you how it is. Exercise is about stress. You must put stress on the body for you to gain from exercise. But the question is, what intensity of stress should I put on the body, okay, so that I'm not fatigued? Or what intensity of stress should I put on the body so that it's beneficial to me? Thirdly, is there a stress I can put on my body that there's no benefit? Yes. So let me use a weight as an example. Let me just say this very quickly. You know what a bicep coil is? Yeah?
That one that you
Yes, that you do this, yes. So if you take a 5 kg, I'm sure you can do over 20. Now, if your aim is that you want to be fit and strong, yeah, and you're doing this, and you do over 20, it's not having the kind of effect it can have. It's like you're traveling to Sokoto and you're walking, whereas you can take an aeroplane. To take an aeroplane, all I need to do is calculate what we call the 1 rep maximum of your bicep coil. Get 40% of that 1 rep coil and ask you to coil that. The minute you coil that, you are now on a jet. You will get to Sokoto via jet. You know what I'm saying, yeah? And so by the next 2 days, you are seeing the effect. You're like, Joe, what's going on, man? I'm feeling good. That's because we didn't just gamble on your bicep coil. We didn't just pick a weight on the floor that looked like you could lift, and then we started lifting it. Another thing will be, you're not the trainer. You say, I want to develop hypertrophy. Hypertrophy means to build the muscle. I, for instance, I've not built my muscle. And people say, why don't you look? You know, I said, let both of us run, or let both of us, do a squat. Let both of us do press up, and we'll see who is fit. You know, but more importantly, if I wanted to build that muscle, what I would do is that I'll take that same maximum, that 1 rep max I said, and do 70 to 75% of that, and then I will build muscle with very good rest and good nutrition. If I do that, it's not magic, it's the body, it's science. I will build muscle.
So essentially you're saying, even though your schedules have to change from time to time,
yes,
your regiment also has to follow suit.
Yes, so there must be a change. So because after 3 months, that weight I give you, let's say we calculated that 40% for you and it was 20 kg. After 6 weeks, I need to check again because you will have developed. So it's called it's a principle of training. It's called progression. Okay? There must be progression in your training. If you were doing 10 kg before, at a particular time you should be doing 12. Then you move to 15. Do you understand? And we do that through what we call FIT principle, F-I-T-T, by twigging your frequency, twigging the intensity, tweaking the type of exercise you're doing, and tweaking the amount of time you spend doing that exercise.
Okay, let me ask you this one before we go to the benefits. On the average, I spend about 20 minutes without much stress, 20 minutes tops to get ready for work in the morning. Now, how many minutes do I need of exercise do you think would be advised if I have to get to the office quickly?
Sir, that 20 minutes you use in dressing, just use that same 20 minutes to do something.
What if I don't have 20 minutes?
I'm begging you. It's beg that I'm begging you, but you have time to dress. Because see, we can keep lowering this time and say we don't have time.
20 minutes in the morning.
So tell me, so now, I know we're on air, but I know we're on air, but I want to get personal with you. When do you wake up?
Not too early, maybe just 4:20 in the morning.
Yeah, right, nice one, not too early, good. Okay, and then you have maybe whatever, you're Christian, you need to do, thank God.
I do everything pari passu. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Except exercise. I can't exercise and pray.
Okay, so let's say you've prayed and you're done. When do you finish your praying?
When I get to the office.
No. So you have to have time to pray because, I'm sorry, you might not pray for long if you continue like this. You have a body, that God that you're praying to has given you a body that you have the responsibility of taking care of. Prayer is not going to take care of your body. I'm sorry.
So
you need to carve out 20 minutes.
Must it be in the morning?
No, it doesn't have
Exactly.
to.
So
you
calm
told
down.
me money is your time.
I'm asking not just for me.
Now, let me tell you why a lot of people
The reason I'm asking
do
that
morning.
actually, my apologies, the reason I ask about that actually is because it's a lot more predictable for so many other people.
Okay, to rush out of the
home.
Yeah, which makes sense.
So
to
I'm
beat
just
traffic.
thinking that maybe if you have like 5 minutes or 10 minutes of that, of something intense, maybe it could help. And then as you told us the last time, they can space out the rest of it in the course of the day.
Okay, so let me give you a kind of recommendation. If I was talking to someone, what I would say. I won't still agree that should be the only time they work out. Okay? I will look for another time that they will do it. So that it's either when they're at work
or when they come back home.
When they come back home. Now, having said that,
the reason I didn't use when they come back home because it can be very unpredictable in busy cities like Zaria, Kaduna, Sabongeri, Port Harcourt, Lagos, etc.
Okay, thank you. That's why I also said that. Now, what to do, and why I always say this is that exercise is what keeps you alive. Exercise is literally what keeps you alive. So if I think exercise is important for me, I'll ask that person that wakes up at 4:30, when do you sleep? If you tell me 12, that's where we stop. We need to fix your sleep because there's no exercise you're going to do that will be as beneficial as it should be. All the benefits of exercise come during sleep.
Wow.
Yes, sir. So if you do not sleep and you do not rest and give the body enough time to actually do what you want it to do, then you're literally, jumping 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Whoa.
And then it just becomes a routine, but there's no benefit. So we have to rethink our lives and say, okay, when do I sleep? So do you get enough hours of sleep? If I've sorted that out, we will then look for 20 to 30 minutes in that morning. I don't need it every day. You see the thing? I don't need it every day. I just need at least 4 times a week. And I just need it spaced out. So I can say, why don't you double pray on Monday? But on Tuesday, give me 30 minutes so that you can keep praying for the next 20 years. Okay, I think that's a good deal. If you give me 30 minutes, it doesn't mean you've stopped praying. You've prayed for less amount of time that you were praying before. Don't worry, I pray. Okay, so I'm not an atheist or anything. Trust me. I'm a man I love praying. But if you continue to pray, you are doing something spiritually, isn't it? But you're not taking care of your body. Let me just quickly say this. So I will still ask for at least, if it's bad, 20 minutes. The reason I'm asking for this is that before you get to a peak where you begin to actually benefit from what we call a microcycle. Microcycle is the workout you're doing at that time. We also have what we call mesocycle. That's the workout you're doing for maybe 12 weeks. And we have macrocycle, workout you're doing for a year. Okay? Now, for that single mesocycle workout that you're doing, you need about 2 to 3 minutes to get to the point where you begin to get benefit of your exercise. Because there's what we call the warm-up phase, where you do mobility stretches and pulse raiser. And then you have about 15 minutes to actually do what you want to do, about 12 minutes. And then you still need 3 minutes to come down from that. So at the end of the day, you're actually spending 15 minutes. But if you say you have 10 minutes...
calm down, calm down.
Thank you.
Calm down.
Thank you.
So,
thank you very much.
What are the benefits of a lifestyle, not just of fitness?
Yes.
Not just of exercising.
Yes.
A lifestyle of fitness.
I want to start from what we might not... First of all, is a mental benefit or emotional benefit. Today, a lot of people are suffering from mental health issues. And you may say, oh, things are tough and all that, but if you are exercising, you wouldn't actually find yourself in that situation, because what exercise does is that it's like a guard. It protects you from acute stress or stress that can lead, to
metabolic breakdown.
A breakdown of your body. So when you exercise, it also releases endorphins that makes you feel good, which helps your emotional well-being.
So you are less stressed.
Yeah, you're less stressed, and so you are more effective at work. And even doing that helps you to make the right decisions. Some people, when they're stressed, they eat too much. And see, it's like a circle. Stress because you are not exercising, and then you're not exercising, and then you are eating more because of that stress.
Actually, the World Health Organization, we checked it out, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We checked it out. The World Health Organization actually classifies eating disorder as a mental health problem.
It is, actually. Do you know also that more than 10 years now, obesity is actually a sickness? It's not looked at as one lifestyle condition. It's actually a sickness. It's something that needs urgent medical care or attention.
Okay. So now, that's one.
So that's one. Number two is your productivity. There is no one that is listening to me right now that doesn't need to be productive in what they do. And so when you exercise, it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a writer, whether you an executive, it doesn't matter what you do. The minute you exercise, you are more productive in what you, because you have adequate energy to perform the tasks that you need to perform. Of course, mental alertness, which is kind of related to what we just said, is also there, so that you can think quickly and achieve the goals you want to achieve. So you see, I've not said anything that is physical. Now, having said that, you can then move to the health benefits. So you are now someone who won't have a cardiorespiratory disease, which we have so many of them. You won't have any joints issues. Now, let me say this very quickly. Someone is running because they want to catch a bus, but they are not fit. And then someone hits them because they have no stamina, because they are not fit. They then drop on the floor and sprain their ankle because they have no range of movements because they are not fit. Do you get what I just said now? So literally, when you don't exercise, if anything happens to you, you are in danger. More than the other guy that the same thing will happen to and will be able to recover quickly. Even when it comes to recovery, for instance, if you do cardiovascular exercise and you get injured, if both of us get injured on our finger, okay, and I do cardiovascular exercise and you don't do, I'll get better before you. I hope you know that.
Not me. Him
watching. Not me. I hope you know that, because when you do cardiovascular exercises, what you do is that you build up what we call capillaries all over your body. The more capillaries you have in maybe in a cell or in an organ, the more oxygen and nutrients can get there, and the more carbon dioxide can go out. So it's like saying you're able to fuel your body better when you do that. Another benefit of that is good sleep. Some people complain of insomnia, that they can't sleep, or they can't sleep. Okay? What you need to do is start exercising, and you will find that you will sleep like a baby. Okay?
So if exercise helps sleep.
Most definitely.
So if you have not been sleeping,
try.
It's not insomnia. It's lack of exercise. That's what he's the one saying.
No,
It, not me.
I didn't say that's not a closed-ended comment. You go to the doctor and find out why you're not sleeping. But I'm saying that exercise helps you sleep. If you find that you're not sleeping, ask yourself: Are you active? Okay, are you active? And if you find that you're not active, get active and see how well your sleep will really improve, because you will sleep well. There's a difference between just being on the bed and actually sleeping well and actually sleeping well. So that's what I mean. Then, of course, you have the external benefits, which is the fact that your clothes look good on you. Benefits of being able to stand and have a conversation with someone without looking for a chair very quickly. You have all those other benefits that even your skin and all those outward things that you find. But I purposely put that at the end, because physical fitness is not about how you look outside. It's about how you look inside. There are people that look like me that have bad fat all over their body and are dying. So, and then they look at the other guy that looks big and they're like, oh, this guy is about to drop. Whereas you're the one about to drop. Because your lifestyle, you've spent your time drinking and smoking and spending all the 9 hours out, and then you come home and sleep for 3 hours, and then you go to work and you feel, oh, I'm Superman. And then you do that every day.
No, they have very, very agile metabolism.
For now.
Oh,
when it hits.
Okay, let me just ask this as we begin to wind down.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, because some people choose to exercise for the looks, not for the health.
Yeah.
What is the difference between fitness and exercising?
Okay. So
I know it's a doctorate question.
No, not really. Fitness is the ability for you to be able to perform a task. So fitness can be in anything. It can be, are you fit as a presenter? Are you fit, so fitness is ability to do something. But exercise is the activity you do to be fit. You can put that as maybe a definition. But more importantly is that exercise is not just for the outward look. Now, that is a by the way benefit. And you constantly.
Now, that's the reason I asked the question.
Yes.
Some people exercise for months, possibly even years.
Yeah.
All they are doing is, okay, maybe the question I should be asking is, what is the difference between fitness and bodybuilding?
Oh, I see. Yes. It's a good question. This is how I put it. Bodybuilding is a choice. Fitness is not a choice. So when it comes to fitness, everyone must ensure that they are working their muscles. The question now is, why are you working? So you see some ladies, when they, and I mean this now, it's ladies that do this, when they see weights, they say, no, it's not for me. Why? I do not want to build muscle. So they've associated weight-bearing exercises or weights to building muscle, whereas it is that weight that helps them to burn calories faster. You see how weird that is? And you see, so that muscle building is not equal. So I can decide that I want to be bulked up. I want to muscle build. That's fine.
But does that mean...
But that doesn't mean that you are fit.
Wow.
Yes, that doesn't mean you are fit. If I go into fitness now, okay, let me just quickly go into it. So fitness is like your phone. There are many components to fitness. Fitness is not only the outside of your case. You have a phone now, the case, that's not fitness. I can take away this old case and allow me to use the word EBA, as they do in some places, and sell to you. I've not sold you a phone, have I? Okay, so fitness has many components. So there's flexibility, muscular endurance, muscular strength, and there's cardiovascular endurance, and there's the body composition. If you go into fitness, you have agility, balance, speed, and the rest, and power and the rest. So a trainer can be all bulked up, but it's cardiovascular, most of them, their cardiovascular health is bad, and cardiovascular is the most important.
In fitness
yes.
exercises.
Number one.
Okay.
Number one.
We're winding down. Okay, time is up, but let me just take this one very quickly. Victor is saying, I've been doing brisk walks every day for almost 15 years now. I am very fit. I do this to keep fit and to keep healthy. Would you recommend that for anyone else?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So what you want to ask Victor is, Victor, do you have any knee injuries? Yeah, Victor might answer.
Okay.
Okay, or ankle.
Okay,
So
well,
I'll just advise Victor before we end. He should ensure that he straps his knees and ankles, because the way the body is, you must give it, it's called a rest principle. You must give it time to recover in between days. Now, he can switch that, with playing maybe table tennis.
Okay.
Something that doesn't put too much pressure on that bricks work that he does.
How about
But he shouldn't
yoga?
Ooh, wonderful. I didn't know you were going to go there. You are feeding me with beautiful questions this morning. Now, yes, yoga is very, very good. Now, most of the problems, let me just talk about Lagos because we're here, is that people don't know how to chill. People don't just know how to just relax.
So the one we do at the club is not enough.
What's that? That is not with that loud music. That's not chill. That's just, I don't know what that is.
As enjoyment.
That leads to where?
Kwabi, etc.
Continue. Continue. They won't tell you. By the time you know there's some people that
Stick with your yoga. Stick with your yoga.
Let me just continue. Yeah. So yoga is one of those exercises that is very important. There are other forms of it. There's Pilates, which is actually done here in Lagos. We have a low Pilates studio on VI. Most trainers are also yoga instructors. They've learned it properly and they can do it. And it's one of those things that we need to do. Especially, one of the benefits of yoga is actually your total body wellness, because it helps to kind of calibrate your body. But more importantly is the mindset. It helps you to relax and all that. Of course, there are endurance techniques and flexibility techniques under that same yoga that helps you get stronger. But it's something that you should put in your lips. It's something that you should try to do.
Well, sounds like we just opened another chapter in the lifestyle of fitness conversation. But thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you for
By the way,
having
Victor
me.
has responded to you. Says, yes, I strap my knees, and recently I now take breaks. I do in between days to save the knee.
Yes! Go, Victor! Go, Victor! The minute is smart now. He has strapped his knees, and then in between days, he's working out. Tell him, so Victor, you can hear me, in between days, those days, don't stop. Get weights, If it's body weights, do your push-ups, do your body weight exercises, or get weight and do resistance training on the days you're not walking.
Okay.
I promise you
Victor, that is
free consultation.
Free consultancy for you. So we'll just send you the account number to Channels Television.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. By the way, it looks like Mr. Elumelu is in the same space, because he said he's been doing workouts for 30 years on end. Interesting.
And you wonder why his mind is that way. Okay.
Joel Uzamere, CEO, Institute of Exercise Professional, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
And that's Sunrise this morning. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your Saturday morning. Hope it's been worth your while. Of course, you can take a replay of any of the topics on YouTube anytime within the next 2 hours. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm Ayo Makinde. Bye for now.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com. Click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
Millions of people living together in one community, working together in the same trade. We go into their midst, find out how they live and work.
Oh my goodness.